Good morning. I'd like to call this County Commission meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please silence all your cell phones if you have them with you. And take a moment of silent prayer. Thank you. I'll begin the roll call this morning with Commissioner Doug Smith. Here. Commissioner Mike Stevens. Commissioner Vicki Codd. Here. Commissioner Mike Smith. Here. Commissioner Jeff Culberson is present. Public comment. So I know we have a lot of people here that would like to talk about a lot of different things. We have a couple things on the agenda, and I think budget is probably the bigger one. We're going to open up public comment now. Whoever comes up and talks will have 3 minutes to talk, so we can limit how long everybody's here. We're going to have a public hearing on the budget. So whoever comes up first, if you're wanting to talk about the budget, you can wait until the public comment on the budget section. So if you have a public comment about anything besides the budget, come on up and to the podium and give us your name and address, and you can have 3 minutes. And if it's about the budget, we'll have another public hearing about that. So I don't see anybody.
I guess that answers that.
Yeah, I don't see anybody. I did have several people signed up, but it looks like they're all about
budget.
Well, actually, I think these might be on the extension office. So we could go ahead and have
That's probably
those.
budget related as well.
Wait for them to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to administrative business then. Mr. Lothar, you have something for us this morning, administrative?
Okay, Commissioners, I have my budget presentation for you, but I could wait until after you approve the consent agenda if you'd like to do that first, and then I can do the budget presentation.
Okay. Let's move on to the consent agenda then, if anybody else doesn't have any administrative business for this morning. Yes,
one
sir.
item. I've read this information sort of last week, but I'm going to continue to read it through the next couple months. Just a reminder that in the past 4 years, the prices of everything has gone up. Example, gasoline price 46%, fuel oil 59%, natural gas up 28%, used autos 26.4%. Price of beef has gone up 20%, price of pork 14.1%, price of bacon 15.4%, chicken 8.8%, eggs 11.6%, milk 4.3%, apples 6.7%, coffee 4.7%, baby food 7.9%, and electricity 6.5%. So we're all living in this time of inflation, and that impacts these budgets. And I just wanted to make a point of that. And as you consider the upcoming election, consider that. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Not I.
Anything for right now? Okay. I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda then.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, beginning voting. Commissioner Doug Smith?
Aye.
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 Aye. Consent agenda passes. So moving back to administrative business. So I have something I'd like to read I think pertains to exactly what a lot of you are actually here for. So it makes me extremely downhearted to see all of you here this morning about the county budget, because it means you are upset about your property taxes being too high and you have no idea how they got that way or what to do about it. Because if you knew exactly why your property taxes are so high, you would be addressing the source. Stop getting your information from the wrong people. The problem will persist as long as people don't do their homework. Keep yelling at the wrong people and see if the problem gets fixed. Knowledge is power. They don't want you to have any power, so they keep hiding the facts from you. The county budget is not why your property taxes are high. First of all, the majority of taxpayers only pay about 25% of your taxes that even go to the county. 75% of your taxes go to all the other taxing entities for your district. So even if we took the county budget completely off of your tax bill, it would still be ridiculously high. For example, if your tax bill is $4,000 a year and we didn't charge you any county tax, your bill would still be $3,000 a year. Making cuts to the smallest fraction on your tax bill won't make much difference. Most people don't realize that the $2 mil increase that we are proposing will only cost the majority of people about $5 a month on their tax bill. But we do understand that that's $5 more on property taxes that are too high already. The bigger picture here is the county budget is your budget. All the county does is take a small portion of your taxes and turn that 100% of that into services and assets for you. If we cut the county budget, we are cutting services to you. We have been trimming and squeezing this county budget every year for 30 years. We have laid off employees, we've combined departments, deleted departments, contracted services when it's cheaper, removed any assets that are not absolutely necessary. We've cut services, we've done salary freezes, et cetera, et cetera. We have reached a minimum acceptable level of services and assets in every single department. We are way past cutting things like tree trimming or soil perk tests or health inspections or any other non-essential services like that. We are now to the stage we have to decide whether we're going to close bridges or cut an ambulance. There are no more unimportant things to cut. But how did we get here? If we had the right system in place, we would have conversations about where we're putting the next ball field for the kids or a skating rink, or maybe some great new mental health facility or new bike trails or many other things that would improve quality of life for our taxpayers. But instead, we're having meetings to figure out which road or bridge we can close next, or how can we maintain the police or ambulance services with no money. If you think cutting those services to yourself even further will lower your property taxes, then that is part of the problem. We got in this pickle because the whole system is wrong. Most people don't understand that the county doesn't have the authority to correct high property tax problems. Not only is the county not the problem, the county can't fix it. Until the majority of voters understand this issue, the problem will continue. The state has all the control. By law, the state makes all 105 counties use the same system. Every county has to use only property taxes to pay our bills. The counties cannot use any income tax, no excise tax, almost no sales tax, or any other kind of tax, only property tax. This system does not work for about a dozen counties. Each county should be allowed to choose which tax system works best for them. Leavenworth County is about 50% property tax exempt, so half the people don't even pay property tax. This makes the other half pay double what they should be paying. 8 out of 10 of our largest employers in Leavenworth County don't pay any property tax. Only 33,000 people pay property tax. But if we were allowed to use income tax or sales tax, we could completely eliminate property tax. In Leavenworth County, we are the third highest income tax contributor in the state, but zero income tax is allowed to be used for the county budget. Over 200,000 people pay income and sales tax. Just the numbers themselves would greatly reduce high property taxes because a lot more than 33,000 people would be paying the bills. A 1% increase in income tax could eliminate property taxes completely in Leavenworth County. I haven't talked to one person yet that would not trade 1% more income tax if they wiped out their property tax completely. But the state will not let the counties use income tax. The county has presented half a dozen proposals that would drastically cut high property taxes. The state has not initiated any of them. The LAVTR would have generated $4 million a year to offset your property taxes. That would be a full $4 million decrease each year. But the state just passed a law to abolish LAVTR. Most taxpayers don't even know what LAVTR is, let alone stop the state from removing it. A pilot check from the federal government would alleviate high property taxes, but most taxpayers don't know what that is either. Another fix this county commission has been working on with no help. A 4% cap on valuation increases would drastically protect people from skyrocketing valuation increases each year, but the state won't pass that either. It doesn't fit the agenda of one of the 6 entities that really run Topeka. Until the majority of taxpayers understand that Topeka is run by about 6 different entities that do not have your best interest in their agenda, the problem will continue and get worse. Most of your current state representatives are not there for you. They are there to do what those 6 entities tell them to do. That's why they divert your attention to the county and even pass laws to make it look like the county is the problem. Unless you do a lot of homework and spend time, which most taxpayers don't have time to do, you don't know where the real problem lies. Let me sum all the homework up for you. It's not your county budget. The ironic part of all this is they have you asking to cut your own services. The Eastern Gateway Bridge would boost our economic development so much we would be able to drastically lower property taxes. But the state is not interested in helping us with that proposal either. The point is, there are a lot of ways to lower your property taxes. Cutting your own assets and services is not one of them. Stop letting the state hide behind a mask and understand where the problem needs to be fixed. They've done a great job hiding, like mandating that the counties will send out the tax bill, collect all the money, and then hand it out to the schools and all the other taxing entities in your district. Saying it's for convenience, so you have to only write one check, it's not. It's more about hiding who is getting your money. That one procedure itself has most taxpayers thinking that the county gets all their taxes, when in reality, like I said, the county only gets the smallest portion of your taxes. It just looks like we do. So who do you yell at? The people you wrote the check to. That's who. That's us. That's how it works. It's genius. They don't even get yelled at. The county does. The whole revenue neutral or truth in taxation bill is ridiculous. It's an unsustainable concept that further hides the state's role and makes you chase your own tail. Please stop asking to cut your own services and figure out where the real problem is before it's too late. The time is coming sooner than later. I'd be glad to talk to anyone, anytime, to explain things further. You don't have to talk to me, but please talk to someone that will give you the facts and not hide them from you to further their own agenda. Those 6 entities that run Topeka are not your friends. They're not interested in helping you. They have put many things in place to divert your attention away from the real problem. They're winning because they thrive in this low voter turnout, low taxpayer involvement, and candidate harvesting process that they have perfected. They have you right where they want you, mad at the wrong people, knowing nothing about how things really work in Topeka, and not knowing how to fix the real issues. The County Commission can do a lot of things for you, but fixing high property taxes is not one of them. We do not have the legal authority to do so. You have the power to fix this, but only in an educated, timely, and combined effort. It starts with homework. Sending letters to the wrong people or meeting with the wrong people does nothing to help your cause. Please help us help you. You put us here. We are telling you what the problem is. You have to figure out what to do with that information. And that's from me, not the entire board, but you can ask each other commissioner how they feel about
I agree
that.
with your statement.
So,
I'll
yes, sir.
dovetail on that. The legislature, Senate Bill 1 during the special session, they passed some major changes. The best thing they did is exempt Social Security income from individual taxes. That's the best thing they did. But they also, in order to be able to say that we reduced your property taxes, they made a change. And the change they made was that they increased, beginning tax year 2024, the amount of residential property exempt from statewide uniform school finance levy to $75,000. So that's up from $42,000. So that's about a $33,000 increase in the amount that you can exempt from the school levy portion of your property tax. That's 20 mills. That's all that you can exempt your property taxes from. That's all the action they took, is to allow you greater value on exempting from only the 20 mills. So that doesn't even begin to touch how our folks in Leavenworth County have been seeing their taxes go up thousands, and they pass a piece of legislation that does reduce property taxes, but it's like in the neighborhood of about $200 on a $250,000 house in that neighborhood. So they've, in essence, they've done little to nothing on property taxes. And this is the 5 years I've been on the commission, I've heard repeatedly, Mike, we're going to have to move out of Kansas if we don't do something about these property taxes. Mike, we're going to have to downsize if we don't have to do something about these property taxes. And the legislature, yes, they did something about property taxes, but it was $200. It wasn't what we needed. We asked them to cap property taxes like 26 other states have done. Put a cap on it. They refused to even take a vote in the House.
And that's because one of the 6 entities that I'm talking about is against that proposal.
Right. So, folks, you need to make your voices heard. And 19% voter turnout at the primary election is not going to get it. We are all going to have to work together to find out why our friends and neighbors chose not to go vote. And I think that I was talking to a friend of mine and said, we've got a problem. We need to ask our friends and neighbors why they're not voting. Do you feel like your vote doesn't impact these things? Because here is where we're making some very hard decisions here, but had some very hard decisions been made in Topeka, we would have had far more revenue to deal with in order to offset some of this property tax situation, especially with the LAVTR and the cap. It would have helped. So please reach out to your legislators and let them know something's got to be done about property taxes. If we don't do something, our state is going to fall farther and farther and farther behind. So that's. I'm glad they passed the increase that they did, but we're a long ways from where we need to be.
Well, Commissioner, you brought up a point when you brought up schools. You and I share Bayshore Linwood School District, and they're proposing an 6.8 mil increase and a budget of $63.5 million. The county's proposing a budget of $68.9, and that includes our sales tax, correct? So if you take the sales tax out, which we only pay for projects, we don't use sales tax for the actual budget, we're actually operating cheaper than the Bayshore School District to provide services for the whole county. Am I correct on that? Am my numbers right on that?
I think your numbers are correct, Commissioner.
Okay.
Yeah, the entire county budget is less
than a school district. And we have 5 school districts in this county, I believe. Wouldn't it be 5?
I think so.
And we have no control
over the school
district's budgets whatsoever. So it comes down to the people that are voting again. If I don't remember the municipal election, I think it was even worse than I think it was more like 12% voted. And if 12% of the people are going to decide who's on these school boards, who's controlling 70% of your taxes, folks, it's basically it comes back to pointing the finger at ourselves. Because you've got to take responsibility. We all have to take responsibility for all of the entities of government, and we're going to do our best, and we're going to struggle through this budget. You're going to see this is not easy, but we don't control that other 70%.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add?
I just have one thing. I just have a question, and it's just to get an idea. We keep repeating the term LAVTR. How many people in this room know what we're talking about?
That's a good question. So a fraction of the people in here even know what LAVTR is.
Okay, LAVTR is a sales tax. Just for the purpose of educating the people that are here.
That you're already paying.
That we have already paid. It's the local, and the term means local ad valorem tax relief. So it was an effort for the legislators many years ago to help offset the burden of the system that was adopted by the state of Kansas for taxation of property to pay our bills. So even the state legislators realized this was kind of an undoable type system that we have adopted as a state. So we collect sales tax, and the tax that I'm speaking of for the LAVTR is what is sometimes referred to as like the sin tax. It's tobacco, alcohol. It's designated per county. Each county collects that tax and sends it to the state of Kansas. We used to hold them back, but the state of Kansas and the counties agreed that we would allow the state to collect that money for us.
1.5%.
1.5%, and then send it back to us, and they could use, the money throughout the year. It would be cheaper for administrative purposes. There would be more money gaining interest, all those kinds of things. And so The county said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. You send us back our money, and that will help offset our property taxes, the burden of the property taxes. So the state of Kansas, several decades ago, began to have some financial difficulties. And what they decided was that they were just going to, by continuing resolution, not give us back the money,
1.5%.
that 1.5%, which by law, by legislature said they were supposed to return to us to give us that money to help us pay our bills and then reduce your bills. Well, that has not happened, and over the years they've whittled it down, and finally, because we squawked as county commissioners across the state by saying, give us back our local ad valorem relief funds, the answer from the legislators was, no, we will just abolish the law.
But still collect the money.
But they have still collected the money. The money is still being collected by the state of Kansas. That is the tax dollars that you have paid in, and they're holding on to it, even in light of having a $5 billion money in their coffers.
Yeah, surplus.
And it's a surplus that they're bragging about having, while we, because I pay taxes too, are struggling to pay our property taxes and to pay our bills. And as the commission of figuring out how do we pay our bills, we would have had $4 million extra this year had they sent us back our money. Just this year. So I just wanted to know, I want you to know what some of this is about. I want you to know why there is some level of anger on the part of the commissioners. And one of the reasons why I have pushed back so hard on the flat mill, or sometimes the flat mill, because we're not adequately paying our bills. We're just kicking the can down the road. But the revenue neutral, that was just another effort for the state to bully counties and to manipulate the people and to manipulate us into doing what they want us to do. And we can't continue to do it because now we're sitting here with an inability to really pay for what we need to have, what we need as people and as a community. And we have individuals who are here today concerned that they may be losing some of their funding from the county as a result of that. So I think that we really need to listen to what we're trying to tell you and educate yourselves. I had to educate myself. I had no idea 6 years ago when I became a commissioner that this was part of the problem, that the local ad valorem was part of the problem. But as soon as we started to question it, we became the enemy. So we're taking it on, but the taxpayers need to be, and the people who vote, you need to become the people who hold the keys to how to fix this. And that is in Topeka. It's not here. It's in Topeka. And you can fix part of it by how you vote, but you can also write letters. You can also go to Topeka. You can go talk to them. You can send letters. Because your voice speaks to the people who have been elected. We hear you. We sincerely hear you. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Just one thing. I think one of the interesting, I agree with everything that's been said up here. And I know some people in the audience may say we're just pointing the finger back at the state. And, you know, I was a mayor in Lansing, city manager, police chief, all that stuff. We're not pointing the finger. This is just facts. The problem is, unless it bothers you in your day-to-day life, you forget about it. And that's understandable. But anytime, and I'm a Kansas City Chiefs diehard fan, but anytime you can, over a day or two, come up with a tax plan or a finance plan to bring the Chiefs, and you can't fix the property tax problem, that's all you need to know. And we're talking lots of money with what they offered, and they did that over a night. I know these people that get involved, get elected as the legislators, when they first come in, and I know a lot of them just run. One of them lives 2 doors down from me. But when we get into it, one of the main problems we have in this country now is if you belong to this party, you have to vote that way. And if you belong to that party, you have to vote that way. Instead of saying, we hired you to vote for what's best for Leavenworth County, even if the vote is not, even though it doesn't pass. And we have people out of Wichita who's controlling what's going on right now. And it's a shame. And it's my party. But we need to change that. Anyway, I know y'all have heard enough of that, about the property tax. People, I tell you, folks, I know a lot of you, we're not pointing the finger at anybody. We're trying to get to resolve this, and it's very frustrating every year when we ask and get promised we're going to get help, and then everybody runs away to Topeka, and you don't have to see them again, and they know that. So anyway, that's all I have. Sure.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anybody else? All right. We'll move on to, Mark, did you want to get the presentation under administrative business or in the?
I'd like to do the presentation now.
Okay, that'll work.
I need to shut the lights off for that.
Yeah. Just the two this side, Vicki, it works best. Yeah, there you go.
Probably. Well, that's all of them, but
That'll work.
We still got a little light. Well, Commissioners, each year, the most important task we're faced with is preparing the annual upcoming budget. This process starts for staff as early as January and February, and for the County Commission, we start usually in March and April. So this is an ongoing process that's been 8 months in the making, and we get to today where we have to finalize and adopt a budget for 2025. I just have some quick stats. I'll try to go through about 15 pages of information, but I will try to be fast. I know there are a lot of people here that would like to have an opportunity to comment. So inflation, I think you brought it up a little bit ago in what you stated, Commissioner Culbertson, but in 2024, the year-to-date CPI is 2.9%, and that's allegedly what it costs people in addition to what it was last year for their home budget. But I would tell you that it impacts counties and cities and school districts probably a little differently. First of all, culvert prices are up 95% over 5 years. So somewhere around 18 to 19% increase in something that we do a lot of, which is culverts. Asphalt prices are up 48% over that same time. Every road you probably drove on to get here is a road maintained by the county, and that's asphalt related. Bridge prices have doubled in the past 5 years, and actually more like just the last 3 years. We've seen a doubling in the cost of putting a bridge in, which is why the comment was made about we're having to start to decide which bridges get fixed and which may have to be closed. Large equipment prices, that's road graders, the dump trucks, the snow plows, all that, those prices have doubled in the past 5 years as well. And employee health insurance is up 24% this year and 16% the previous year. Those are all inputs that we have that are a large part of our budget that we really don't have control over. So either you have to reduce services or you have to increase revenue to cover those things. This year's budget enhancements, so when we presented our budget, the County Commission said, please provide a budget that it would represent a flat mill. And we did that. But then the things that we had to consider over and above that are we have road and bridges. The Commission asked for 1 mill to be dedicated to increase the road and bridge fund because of the increased expenditures there. That's $1.1 million. The courthouse repairs, I think everybody who walked in walked under a scaffolding of some type to get into the courthouse. Pieces are literally falling off of the courthouse at this time. The roof is due for replacement because it's the reason why the pieces are falling off. So that's $1.1 million that the County Commission asked to dedicate towards courthouse repairs. We increased approximately $450,000 for EMS. We are struggling to recruit paramedics. We are now at the point where some nights we don't have all of our ambulances the ability to run because our neighboring counties have increased what they pay their paramedics and EMTs, and so those folks go work somewhere else where they can make more money. We increased approximately $150,000 for the county attorney. He provided documentation that his attorneys are some of the lowest paid in the metro area and justified increasing their wages. We increased $300,000 of unbudgeted funds in 2024 and $350,000 in 2025 for 911 service. You heard the 911 director explain that the formula they use to fund 911 across the state no longer works, and a lot of it's because of cell phones and a lot of it's because of digital technology that businesses use. Back in the day when it was just plain old telephone lines, it worked, but now it doesn't. We've lost revenue in that fund while the expenditures continue to gain. Those, that's an expenditure you can't ignore. You have to keep the 911 fund moving forward, otherwise you don't have 911 service. The total enhancements for the impact, roughly $3.45 million or 3.11 mills. If you removed those enhancements enhancements, the county was approximately $350,000 over revenue neutral. So without those enhancements, which we just identified, we would have been very close to revenue neutral and probably could have gotten there with some other changes. And I know this is hard to see on the screen. You guys have it up at your screen. Basically, this is what was in the newspaper. This shows you the total county budget. I will attempt to zoom in here so you can see it a little better, maybe. This is the total budget. And if you look on the far right-hand side, that's the mill levy. And then to the next column is the amount of ad valorem taxes we need for the budget. And then the next column to the left is the actual budgeted expenditures per fund. As you can see, a lot of our funds aren't funded via property tax. Only the top ones minus the debt service are funded for property tax. And that's really what everybody looks at and what they're talking about. Solid waste is self-funded. These technology funds are funded through fees. And then we have the sales tax, which is $8.4 million, but that is specifically towards road improvements. It's a 1% sales tax that's collected countywide. 46% goes to the county and 54% goes to the cities. So those are the things, that's the total budget right there. And I think to Commissioner Doug Smith's point, $68.8 million is truly the budget for all expenditures, including the $8 million in sales tax and the $2.4 for solid waste. So if you remove those items, our mill levy and our amount of taxes, yes, is less than what the school district would be. I'm going to zoom back out so the next slides work. So levy funds, and the levy is what is your property tax. When we say mill levy, that's how we calculate your property tax. If you look at overall the funds that are funded by the mill levy, the general fund is up 7.3%. Road and bridge was 8.4%, but that includes the $1 million enhancement that the board voted for. So really, what the road and bridge fund proposed was actually a revenue neutral proposal, simply because other revenues have dropped off in that fund. The health department, 1.87% increase. Employee benefits, and that's the one I talked about, the 24% increase. Some of that is also related to what the state did for the KP&F and CAPERS funds. They increased the amount that we have to contribute for employees, and that is not optional. I want to make sure to point that out. What we contribute for those is not optional. We have to do that. Economic development had the biggest increase, and we will talk about that probably a little bit later. Council on Aging, 8.31% increase. You've heard the director for the Council on Aging talk about the increase in what it costs to put meals out, the Meals on Wheels service that they provide. Community corrections went down 1.4%, and the local service road is up 4.46%, which is actually a pretty good reflection of what the property values went up in the county because there were no enhancements in the local service road. I think I need to zoom out one more. There we go. This is just a pie graph that kind of demonstrates where the money is going. So 54% of your property taxes go to the general fund, 20% to road and bridge, 17% to employee benefits, and 6% to the Council on Aging. Those are the biggest ones. So the general fund compared 2025 to 2024. If you look at the percentage of increase, I think that's what I wanted to kind of point out as for everybody. The total is 7.3%, but that includes the $1.1 million for the courthouse. If you take that off, the increase is actually closer to 4.3%. The overall, if you look by department, the commission department went up 2.2%, clerks down, and I'm not going to go through each one of them. You can scroll down through there. But the EMS, the 12.43% increase, that's the enhancement we talked about so that we can continue to recruit paramedics to keep our ambulances staffed. The building courthouse, 145% increase. Well, that's the increase to pay what it's going to cost to fix the building over time. The other departments, if you look, outside agencies have an increase of 16%. That's directly related to this year in 2024, we did not have Riverside Resources in there. But we did fund them, so it is included in next year's. But the other ones are all within or below, for the most part, the CPI. The county attorney, 17.6%. Again, we talked about that's one of the enhancements. Everything else, these departments decreased their budget or kept it to the CPI, which is what the board asked them to do at the beginning of the budget process. So overall, in the general fund, we are asking for $2.6 million more than we did the previous year. However, $1.1 million of that is directly related to the courthouse repairs. $350,000 of that is the enhancement for the 911 fund. The $150,000 for the county attorney and the $450,000 for EMS. That's where the other funds come from. It's not the other departments. And this is really hard to look at because there's so much data, but I think that what is important is here to see where the bulk of the money goes. 36% to the sheriff, 19% to EMS, 8% to the county attorney, and then you have the courthouse and the buildings are another 10% on top of that if you add all the buildings up. So those are things that are, some of that's discretionary, obviously, the sheriff and the EMS, but I don't think those are areas that most people would want to talk about reducing funding. So for public safety, we have a budget for 2025 of about $27.2 million compared to $25.5 million for the previous year, which is a 6.8% increase. But again, a lot of that, some of that is directly related to those enhancements. And this is just a pie graph demonstrating where the public safety funds go. So levy-supported funds overall that are impacted by state mandates, then this is what the county commissioners were talking about. These are things that the state has directed us that we have to provide as services, but they have not provided funding for. And one of those, the LAVTR, is included. But as you go down, you can see that last year those unfunded mandates were about $12 million of our budget, and this year they're about $15.2 million of our budget, which is about 28% of our overall budget. That's 28% increase. That's about 15% of our overall budget. And those are things that we have to provide. We don't have the option of not providing those. And this is compared to our overall budget. You can see that 18% of the overall budget is unfunded state mandates. And that brings up the outside agency requests. And I think a lot of people here are probably here because of this topic. Some of them are either here for the Port Authority, or some of them are here for the Extension Office. And so I want to point out that the current budget includes funding for the Extension Office at the same level that it has this year in 2024. And pretty much you can see it's been the same since 2022. When we talk about outside agencies, these are agencies that the County Commission over time has decided they're going to provide some funding for. They are not core functions of the county. They're outside groups that provide what are valuable services to the county. And we've had multiple requests throughout the years that we've had to turn down. But I think it's important for people to understand it's not that we don't believe in these agencies. And it's not that we don't think they provide a value-added service to the citizens of this county. The question is, what's the responsibility of the county to take money, because that's what taxes are. We take money from other citizens to fund what are great programs, but there are literally an unlimited amount of great programs in the county. It's just these are the ones that so far have been chosen to be funded. So as we go through those, that's $453,000. If you remember, I told you we were $350,000 basically away from a revenue neutral budget before the enhancements. $453 to outside agencies. So each year we take a hard look at this, and the County Commission has been telling these agencies for at least 4 years, I think maybe longer, don't plan on this money. Sooner or later, we're going to have a tight year like this year, and it's just not going to be feasible. Now, I've included it in the 2025 budget at the current funding levels, with the exception of the Port Authority. And I would like to take a minute to explain the reasoning behind that. The Port Authority is the economic development arm of the county and of the cities. Currently, they have about $800,000 in their bank account. And in a tight year, which is this year, we believe that it would be acceptable for 1 year to reduce the funding for that agency until we get through this year and see how things go. We've asked over the last several years for them to come up with some alternative funding policies. And so far, we haven't been able to do that. So that's why the big decrease in the Port Authority. Again, it's not that we don't support the Port Authority or any of the economic development outreach. We understand the importance of it. We just are trying to find a better way to fund it that's not a burden on the taxpayers, and in a tight year, allow them to spend down their reserves versus us increasing taxes to do so. Then we have special funds. Now, these are funds they're basically the sewer districts, which are funded fully by themselves. They do not have ad valorem support. And then local service road and bridge. And just a quick explanation: local service road and bridge are basically the roads that are not inside of a city. And some of the major roads, like the county routes that are paved, are not part of this either. I know that's not 100% correct, but I refer to this kind of as a gravel road tax. So anybody who lives on a gravel road, this is the tax that's used to maintain those roads. It's separate from the road and bridge fund, which maintains the countywide roads. Are there any questions about that one? It's a flat mill levy. So county tax impact. The county represents approximately 20 to 25% of your your total taxes if you live in town, and 30 to 35% for rural properties. The 3.42 mills in excess of the revenue neutral rate is equivalent of about $11 per month of taxes on the average home in Leavenworth County. The total county tax on the average home is roughly $130 per month. And by average, I believe $350,000 is what the county appraiser said the average value of a home is in Leavenworth County. So on the average home, $130 per month for total county tax. And for that, the services provided are listed below. You can read them. Some of you are probably aware of them. Some of them you may not be. But those are all things that we provide for that $130 a month. And that does include the $2 million increase that's proposed this year. And that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, sir. Anyone have anything else to add to administrative business while Vicky's turning the lights back on? If not, we'll move on to former board actions. Resolution 2024-20, resolution to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate. So we're going to open up a public hearing on this. If anybody wants to come up and talk, they can come up for 3 minutes. Come to the podium, give your name and address. We're going to limit the overall comments to 1 hour. So that's 30 people or 20 people to talk. So if you have anything to say that's different from what the previous people have said, that's what we'd really like to hear. Hearing the same thing over 20 times doesn't really help anybody. So.
Just one thing. I know you said that this is the public hearing for the revenue neutral rate, but it's also the public hearing for the Leavenworth County budget.
Yep.
Just have to be clear.
Okay, yep, and for the Leavenworth County budget overall. So we'll begin. Does anybody have anything to say on the subject that they'd like to come up? So, yes, sir. Please state your name and address. And you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, Mike Doyle, 21848 187th Street, just down the street from you, Doug. So, I'll make 3 brief points this morning. Inflation is a major issue across the country. We've all heard about that. Growth in the county could be better if we had a different approach, which will also help the revenue stream. And we're already paying too much darn property taxes, not to mention the California-style 10% sales tax, not to mention the income tax, but that's beyond the scope of this, but it's cumulative. So inflation is in 17 to 23, depending on whether you include energy or the other things that we've talked about a little bit this morning. While at the same time, median household income in Leavenworth County has only risen 1.2% over the last 20 years. Regardless of fault, everybody in this room has had a significant decrease in the quality of their life. And that doesn't tell the whole story. Because Leavenworth County median income is significantly lower than both Platte and Johnson counties. So you can't compare apples and oranges when you're talking about those two things. The bottom line is that the residents that you represent have taken a major hit and is not getting better anytime soon. The county needs to accept this reality and not punish citizens with another tax increase that further impoverishes struggling families. Growth. The Leavenworth County Comprehensive Plan mentions growth 128 times. Trying to compete with Johnson County in terms of amenities and government spending is a losing proposition. They're just too big and too rich. Property taxes have increased over 300% since 2000, with only a 17% increase in population. A winning proposition for the county is to sell the county as a low-tax haven. Okay? Sell the county as a low-tax haven, as a lower-cost alternative to Johnson and Platte counties. The lower cost of living is the fourth most popular reason that folks move here, while the rural lifestyle is the most popular. That's why I live in the country. The county should focus on creating a low-tax haven to bring in new residents, especially from adjoining counties. This means lowering, not raising, taxes. Leavenworth County has the fourth highest property taxes in Kansas. And remember that across the entire United States of America, Kansas has the 15th highest property tax. The combined effect is to make all Leavenworth County residents poorer. Property taxes in Leavenworth County have increased 337% since 2000, with only a 17% increase in population. The county government should not be a jobs program for the county. To summarize, because I know I'm running out of time, inflation is hurting all Leavenworth County residents. Raising property taxes just throws fuel on an already hot fire. If the county is serious about raising growth, or about increasing growth, that it mentions 128 times in the comprehensive plan, it needs to lower taxes to draw in residents and sell the county as a low-tax haven. You have already raised the property taxes too many times, and it's hurting all of us. The county government doesn't need to grow, it needs to shrink. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Next.
Good morning. Bill Hanfield, 25035 177 Terrace. One of the things you stated is 50% of the properties don't pay taxes here. But the budget numbers goes down, so who winds up paying that additional? And that's the higher end property tax people. And since I've been here, like Mike said, I first decided to live in Leavenworth County because the property taxes were reasonable and the services were reasonable. Not the best, but they were reasonable. Since then, my property has doubled in assessed value since I've been here. For the last 8 years, my property taxes have gone up 10 to 18% a year for the last 8 years, which exceeds inflation in most years. When you look at this, that means what we're doing here with every time you have a increase in taxes, because 50% of the property people don't pay it, it gets passed to a lot of people that are probably sitting in this room. So we become paying more than our fair share. And eventually it's going to be where people are going to move out of the county or go elsewhere because you just can't afford it, especially if you're on a fixed income. And so I agree, certain things have to be cut. What are the essentials, the wants the needs versus the wants? Because I saw some on that last chart there, that looks like a bunch of wants versus essential needs. So you need to look at the appraiser's office too, because every year the appraised value of the homes keep going up and up and up. When my insurance replacement cost is almost $200,000 lower than what the county is assessing my property, kind of scratch my head on that and wonder what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. Morning, Lisa.
Morning, Lisa.
Hello, I'm Lisa Hack. I'm the Executive Director of Leavenworth County Development Corporation, and our organization also does the staff work for the Port Authority. I just would like to come to you respectfully and ask you to reconsider continuing to reduce the funding for the Port Authority. As you know, we have worked very hard to be the marketing arm of the county. We have return on investment, hard numbers showing that we've helped facilitate over $500 million of new capital investment in the county over the last 5 years, and we've helped facilitate the creation and retention of over 500 new jobs in this county. I would just like to say that one of the things you can do to help spread the tax base and reduce that tax burden on those homeowners is to expand the industry in our community. That's what we do. What I was going to say is we also help some of those existing businesses, such as Zephyr, who is here today, and they have recently expanded. Their tax bill is now over $100,000, their property tax bill. And this company employs 200 people, and of those people, 75 live in this county who are also paying property taxes and spending their money in this community. So what I would like to say is to remember that you are getting a return from this organization's work. The impact is going to be that we are at risk of losing our staff. We need to get paid. I know you have recommended that we use some of those reserves that the Port Authority has, but I would say now we're also going to be spending the next year, instead of doing all the economic development that we've been doing, we're going to have to market to our own community of the value so that we can try to gain that funding back next year. It's just going to take steps backward. And so I would just strongly encourage you to reconsider that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next. Come on down.
Good morning. I'm Clarissa Rippey, 1410 South Broadway Street.
Morning.
My husband and I moved to Leavenworth from Johnson County in 2021. And when we bought our house, it was a reasonable price. Taxes were reasonable. 3 years in the future, we're now paying almost 40% more in property taxes. And it sort of stumps me when I hear you all say that you have absolutely no control over what the state does with our money. So you're looking at your customer. You know, I'm investing my money in this area. I'm using my hard-earned money every day, and I'm investing in this community. I moved in this community, and you all were elected to invest my money, and I want a ROI as well, just like you all want for us too. But when I hear you say that you can't, your hands are tied, you can't do anything because the state has total control over the money that we have entrusted to you to manage for us, it's disheartening. Yes, the state can pass laws or whatever, but I could paint this picture. If I were to take your money that you invested with me, that you entrusted to me, and it gets spent however it wants to get spent, you're not going to be happy with me. Even more so, you're going to probably sue me, and I will be in jail, in prison somewhere because I misappropriated your funds, or I just changed the rules and said, oh, sorry, you can't get your money back anymore because I changed the rules, and I'm going to spend your money how I want to spend it now. That wouldn't sit well with you. So what I'm hearing from you is that's what the state is doing to us, right, by changing the rules and keeping my money. That's theft. So you all have been elected to deal with that. And what I'm hearing is that you all have absolutely no control, and you're asking us to just go to the state, which I will. But if the state is going to be held 100% accountable, then why do we even need a commission? Why? Why do we need a commission? Why not just pay the state and we deal with them directly? We don't need a middle person. And that's my take on it. Again, if it were me, I'd be in jail. I'd be suing somebody. So I would recommend that you get some lawyers or whatever. I'd rather spend my money with lawyers suing the state to get my money back than to just throw my hands up and say, well, okay, citizens, you go to the state and you deal with them because we can't do anything for you.
I think it's interesting. I know we usually don't talk during this, but it's very interesting that I had placed on my desk this morning. The county commission instructed the county councilors 2 months ago to find attorneys to talk to us for just that reason. So we're going to try to see what we can do. We're fighting the big brother up in Topeka, but we are taking a step further because we don't like telling you there's nothing we can do. So maybe the attorneys that are a lot smarter than us can tell us how we can pressure them to return the millions of dollars back to the county citizens.
Well,
But you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Okay. Thank you.
So what he's saying is we are suing the state on your behalf. Exactly what you just said. Yep. Next.
Considering.
Yeah, well.
We can get somebody to take the case.
Yeah. Next.
My name is Cindy McGuire. I live at 605 Fair Lane in Lansing, but I'm actually here on behalf of the Leavenworth Public Library, who, and as the library, we partner with K-State Extension and research on a number of programs throughout the year. If their funding is severely cut, as has been proposed, it will also impact the library's ability to provide quality programs to its patrons. The cost for us to book speakers and instructors is between $150 and $300 per program. K-State Extension currently provides the following services and supplies to the library at no cost. They provide 12 monthly food preparation and nutrition classes, which are called Knowledge at Noon. Attendance so far for this year is 122 people, and we still have 4 programs left this year. If we had to pay outside speakers to provide this class for us, it would be between $3,000 and $4,800 per year. They also provide 6 monthly programs from the Master Gardeners, who also provide free plants, seeds, staffing, and support for other gardening-related activities at the library. Attendance so far at these programs this year is 57. And if we had to pay for outside speakers to provide this, it would be between $900 and $1,800 per year. Also, the library provides a volunteer income tax assistance to low-income residents of Leavenworth County, and we are the only organization besides the Council on Aging that provides this service. The Council on Aging has an age restriction to theirs. We do not, so we assist all residents in this county below a certain income level. Last year, the Extension Office provided us 3 laptops and a printer that enabled our volunteers to serve 143 people, and I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. For next year, they're also helping us with volunteer recruitment so we can serve even more residents next year. The estimated cost for the 3 laptops and the printer is about $3,500. If the library had to pay for all the services and support that the Extension Office provides, it would take our entire adult programming budget for the year. This would severely affect our ability to fulfill our mission to provide quality speakers and programs that stimulate discovery, understanding, and enjoyment, and that statement's directly from our mission. The services that the Extension provides to the library are just a small part of the value they offer to people throughout the county. I urge you not to make drastic cuts to the Extension Office that have been proposed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Jump in and follow that up. I'm Denise Sullivan,
Morning, Denise.
26562 155th Street. Some of you may recognize me as a former Extension employee, but I'm here today to speak in support of their budget. Over the last 110 years, since the Smith-Lever Act established cooperative extension as the conduit to take research and education from land-grant institutions to local citizens, like through the library, educational programs have evolved over time. While early extension programs focused mainly on agriculture and food safety, youth were often the conduit for reaching adults. Through the partnership and expertise of KSU Resources, as well as a cadre of trained volunteers, 21st Century Extension programs continue to reach a wide variety of learners on a variety of topics that impact lives from womb to tomb. After spending 38 years as an extension professional across 3 states, it really frustrates and saddens me that so many people still have a limited understanding of the breadth of extension programs and their impact on communities. I often think of the parable of the group of blind men who touched different parts of an elephant: the leg, the trunk, the tail, the side, the trunk, the leg, or the tail, and reported that an elephant was like a wall, a snake, a tree, or a rope, depending on what part they touched. The same is true for extension programs. It just depends on what part you touched. Whether through a program in agriculture, horticulture, healthy lifestyles, food safety, family life, financial planning, youth development, or community vitality, the purpose of that program is instilling knowledge and developing skills for improving lives, livelihoods, and communities. Seeds of many kind get planted and flourish through extension programs. I can glance around this room and see people who have utilized extension programs to learn skills that helped guide their career path, jumpstart thriving businesses, and give back through volunteerism. And I know that's true of my journey, from 4-H member to 4-H leader, and volunteer, to a scholarship recipient, to KSU student, to extension intern, to extension employee, and back as a community volunteer and advocate. Extension is in the business of knowledge transfer and people development, which is a challenge to monetize, but that does not discount their value. I ask that you please continue to provide adequate support for extension programs so that they can continue to provide transformational knowledge to citizens in our ever-growing communities. Sorry, trying to get through that. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Next. Who's next would like to come up and speak? Morning, Larry. How are you?
Larry Scheller, 17476 Donahue Road, Tonganoxie, Kansas. Since I've only got 3 minutes, I had Janet give me a copy of this budget on Monday, and to be honest, nobody in general knows what they're looking at when they're looking at this. But every 3 months, the county is required to post fund balances in the Leavenworth Times legal sections. Nobody reads these. Nobody reads the legals. It's all about divorce, estates, name changes, but they're required to post what the fund balances are. Well, this is the last one that was in there effective July the 1st of this year. There will be another one in October. I marked 4 things. Courthouse equipment reserve currently has $4,778,432. CARES American Rescue Plan has $4,126,360. Public Works Equipment Reserves has $2,684,850. Local Service Roads Capital Equipment Reserves has $1,027,496. Together, that's $12,617,138 in reserve. Now, I'm willing to forget Road and Bridge. Let's just take them out of the equation. I frankly believe that Road and Bridge and law enforcement are the 2 most important things that the county does. That still leaves us with $8,904,792. Now, this CARES thing was money that the government doled out when COVID hit because they was afraid counties and cities were all going to go bankrupt. Well, that was in 20. And as of the 1st of July, we still got $4,126,000 there. Now, I don't know what you're planning on spending it on, and I'm willing to take Road and Bridge completely out of the equation. Give them what they want. If they want $1 million, give it to them. But as far as the rest of it, and I know the courthouse needs to be repaired. I get that. But I think there's ample money. I don't know what you're doing with CARES, All I know is there's over $4 million laying in it right now. And just about everybody that got money has still got money left. I just seen something in the Tonganoxie Mirror that I think the city over there has $500,000 that they're getting ready to spend. And Jeff, you and Doug made two good points. The state is what controls property values. Our appraiser has to go by what's mandated. So that we were supposed to have a vote. You know, last year, valuations went up about 13%, and everybody was PO'd, and they should have been. And so there was all this talk about, okay, we're going to have a constitutional amendment this November, and we're going to set the amount at 4%, which in my opinion was twice as much as what it should have been. It only should have been 2%. But 4% beat 13%, and that's what it went up the year before. So I was going to compromise on that. Well, guess what? There's not going to be any constitutional amendment. They blew it off. So, and I agree with all of you. 19% at the county primary was horrible. Every county race was decided at the primary, and not even 1 out of 5 voted. And as a former county election official, I can't believe that we had that turnout. And both of you are right. And the county administrator brought it up. My taxes are about 1/3, 2/3. 2/3 goes to the school, and I live in that wonderful school district. But we're not here to talk about 458. I'm willing to compromise. Nobody heard that word. Washington doesn't compromise anymore. The state doesn't compromise anymore. But I would be willing to, instead of what you're proposing, meet you in the middle.
Okay.
Only go up half. Leave road and bridge alone. Fund them. We need roads. We need bridges. We need all that. And we need law enforcement.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you. Hey, Jeff, before you go any further, county commissioners, make sure that the air conditioning on. There are some people are having a tough time hearing us. If you want to put your mic a little closer to you so everybody can, in the audience, that air conditioner cuts on in the back half, just can't hear it.
So could I have just one comment on that? Maybe the county administrator can comment on the CARES and ARPA funds, that those are committed.
The CARES Act funds have been committed for over a year. They just aren't spent yet. We have projects that are out for bid currently that will be constructed, or the bids will be let before the end of the year, which is required, and the money will be spent before the end of 2026. It's required.
Yeah, what they're saying, Larry, is those aren't actually rainy day funds. They're already committed to be spent on projects like necessity.
$4 million for the year.
It just might not be earmarked.
Yeah, it might not be before the year's over, but they're
It will likely be before the year's over, but it'll be before what's required. But all that money, the commission already dedicated that to culverts and bridges improvements. So those are all going to infrastructure improvements.
That's the first thing we did, was deplete all our rainy day funds in each township and the county, overall general, everything. So there's no rainy day funds left. Who's next that would like to come up and talk, please?
I'd like to have a question for Mr. Scheller, because I think he can answer it, but I want to give you time to think about it while we're doing this. When the county took over the roads back in October of 1973, do you remember how that was? Was it a vote, or did the county just decide they were going to do that?
When they switched from the township budget covering it?
I'm not real sure how that was. I think it was a vote.
I do too.
I think it was a vote, but I want to say this. We've lived out where we live since 1970, and that's back when the townships had the road.
Yeah.
I'm currently on a township.
All right.
And township boards then had a 1 grader, 1 dump truck, and they were farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 3 spots on down in the road when it rained. You just floored it and hope you got through to the other side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when the county took over, they greatly improved Johnson County, and they want everything to be blacktop. They have no idea how the roads were prior to 1973 versus what they are now. It's night and day.
Yeah.
But my
I
point,
think we did both.
I thought so too, but I was in 6th grade. So, my point is, are we a county unit, should we the local service budget? And the reason I'm asking, because of your experience, we're
I have
only.
a problem with local service.
Well, I'm just saying, local service has never supported itself, and it never has since it's always been out road and bridge. But should everybody in the county be paying into that budget by it being the way if we're a county unit?
I don't know. I can't answer that question.
I know.
I can set up that way.
Mm-hmm.
If you live on a gravel road,
But there's only
people in the city aren't going to drive on it.
there's only 2 other counties, I think, in the state that have a local service budget. Everybody just pays into the local or the road and bridge fund. So,
So what he's saying is that people in the cities are
not
subsidizing the rural
They're
roads.
not subsidizing.
Yeah.
People in the townships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's never been self-supporting. We've
Yeah.
always had to take some money out of road and bridge to make it.
That's what I
But-
meant. And it's kind of backwards, but
Mm-hmm.
the people in the city have to connect the cities using the county roads, so I guess that's the way they look at it. Is there anybody next that would like to speak? Morning, Mr. Shimke.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Chad.
Chad?
Chad Shimke, 11710 Kelly Road. Been too long. Great to see you guys. Thanks for giving me a few minutes. I wrote something down because I've been known to be a little bit of a wild card, shoot from the hip, and I know Jeff might send the hook, kick me off, so I'll get going. I got a lot of respect for you. Haven't been there, albeit a short time. It's a tough job. It's really tough on days like today, so I'm glad to be on this side instead of that one. It also sucks during a pandemic. That was awful, but I was glad to be working with you guys through that. Bottom line is we're talking budget because we're talking property taxes and everybody's upset. And I'm just as sympathetic as all of you. We're all tired and think we're paying more than our fair share. We also operate at a massive deficit to our peers. And I think, Jeff, you brought it up earlier. We're 6th in population, but 12th in dollars collected. Most people don't know that. And I thought the education you guys gave earlier was very helpful. And that was, you had 8 out of the top 10 employers. I had 12 out of the top 15. Anyway, it's broken. To operate the way that we do is very broken. And so I think the legal route with the state is a great one. I'm excited to see where ultimately that goes. Not a single person here likes paying property taxes, and you start paying multiple 6 figures, you really loathe them. So I assure you I'm on everybody's side here with property taxes. But it also pays for hundreds of county jobs. And it's, again, we're asking the county to do a lot with a little. And I think today there's going to be a lot of people asking to do more with less. And I'm sitting here going, that's a failed equation. Whether it's public works, whether it's sheriff's department, go on down the list. Labor, people cost more, material costs more, equipment costs more. That's the reality, and it's a real challenge. I don't think we're going to be able to lower taxes by asking everybody to do more with less. To have long-term success, it's going to be economic development all day long and then some. And I'm here today and talk to support of the LCDC and Port Authority. Having worked really closely with them over the years, I really like having a group that can bridge the gap between the cities and the county and ultimately the state, help to quarterback, project manage these opportunities that ask a lot from a lot of people to get them over the finish line. A lot of these things don't happen in the county. We've talked about that a lot. It happens in the cities. Why? Because there's infrastructure, right? And, I think we need to ask a lot more out of the cities, too, as far as the budgets go. There's a lot of return on investment that they get from the LCDC and Port Authority. But I'm really asking you to not make a really hard job that much harder. Honestly, I don't know why the townships hate the cities that hate the counties hates the state. Actually, that one I know. That LAVTR thing's a real deal. But I don't think we're going to fix it in this room either. I was 100% supportive of their budget when I was on the board, and it was probably almost twice what it is now, and we're considering, reducing it again. I think there's a lot of these groups that their budget needs to be way more and not way less, so I think we're having the wrong discussions. And it shouldn't come from this crowd either. the only way the group's even successful today is we've got it's a really small staff that's talented and hardworking, but they've got dozens of local successful business owners helping to support them, and they do it for nothing, and it's absolutely free. Otherwise, I don't think we'd be able to get close to the results that Lisa shared earlier. The other day I was thinking about the BOCC when they pulled out a mark a few decades ago and cost us $435. Since then, we've talked about how do you fix K7? What about a 45 highway bridge? Now we're going to pour tens of millions in grant money into Highway 5 that won't fix the problem either. In summary, we need all the help we can get to overcome these obstacles. We'll continue to miss out on large commercial and industrial opportunities. And whether the general public wants it or not, those are the only things that's going to get our taxes down. We're not going to be able to just keep spending less. We're going to have to generate more, and that means shift it. And I want to see it shifted to new businesses, new opportunities, new jobs. I want to see it shifted. I love the creativity about other ways that we can figure out how to fund these very, very, very necessary departments and functions of the county. So anyway, thank you for the time. I really appreciate it. Good luck with your vote. I know it's not an easy one. Appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
You forgot to say it.
And if you have a chance, pick what sucks less today.
There you go. Next. Hi, Sherry.
Sherry Grogan, 16635 Leavenworth Road. First, I'd like to thank you and all the elected officials and department heads for the work that's gone into the budget. But I wanted to provide a few observations. And I looked at some of the data from the past, and elected official salaries have increased 24% between 2020 and 2024. So that's 174.5K. Salaries overall have increased 29% from 2020 to 2025. That's 6.1 million. Benefits, 49% increase 2020 to 2025, equal 4 million. And when I look in the budget, and I use some of the information that was obtained through a core request by another member of the community, but we have some headcount additions, and we look at that individually within the department. So it shows county treasurer 1, administration 1, appraisers 2. Now that is currently vacant, carried over. Sheriff 8 headcount, again vacant. Council on Aging 2 full-time plus 1 part-time, and they have currently vacant 1 full-time and 2 part-time. But the point is there are some things we can do, and adding headcount is one of those things that maybe we should think about not doing. So if we look at salaries for 15 people, just averaging $45K, that's over $500,000, roughly $675K. Now some of those positions maybe are more, some less. But then you think about the benefits for those 15, and I just took the benefits line item and divided that by 423. I mean, getting my hands on the numbers is a bit of a challenge because all the information isn't posted on the county website, but assuming we have 423 employees, that's about $62K, $431 per person in benefits. So if we added salary and benefits for that 15, that's $1.5 million. So the other thing is when we target salary increases, a flat or a specific increase for everybody, that means your high wage earners are getting an increase, your low wage earners, some are positions that maybe you don't have any turnover in, some maybe you do, but targeting salary increases might be to our advantage rather than just giving an absolute increase to everybody across the board. So that is something that I think ought to be looked at, and no increases for elected officials.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Next, anybody else like to come up?
Okay, let's move on.
All right. Okay.
Wait, there's somebody there.
William Bergman, 18452 High Prairie Road. I don't know if I'm not talking about taxes. I wanted to talk about an ongoing project in my neighborhood. It's a road, falls under Road and Bridge on Eisenhower Road. They've I called everybody and they're telling me to call you guys. Here I am. The dust. They don't have a road's closed. Eisenhower. There's no traffic's been. There's no designated place for the traffic to go. So they're going on High Prairie roads where I live. That it went from like 10 cars a day to maybe 1,000. Dump trucks, trailers, you name it. The dust is so bad you can't. If you get to your driveway, you can't even see if anybody's coming. And I talked to everybody, county, everybody I can try, and they say that there's no plan to put any abatement on the road. They said I could pay for it myself. $1.50 a foot, about a mile. I don't do anything for us out there. Appreciate it, but yeah, that's what everybody's saying. Can't do nothing. So I can't even go out in my yard at night now. The dust was so thick, it was like the whole valley was full of dust.
Mm-hmm.
Drive out there. Bad.
It's like that every time we do a box culvert for the locals. It's just temporary is all we can really say.
Well, they said it's till January.
Yeah.
That's quite a while.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any more money laying around somewhere, but
We hear you.
it's not in my budget to pay $1.50 a foot for a mile.
Understand.
Dirt. So praying for rain every day then, I guess. So
Yeah.
thank you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Is there anybody else want to talk about the budget? Yeah. Can you come up and tell us your name and address for the record, please?
I'm Connie Young. I live at 16953 182nd Street. When you read your statement to us, Mr. Culbertson, you talked about that this is out of your control. My husband and I we're kind of perpetual property tax protesters. We have asked specifically for action points because it's getting. We didn't need any reminder from Mr. Stephen about how much things have gone up, and so if you could, I'm sorry, if you could better inform us. I mean, you spoke of 6 anonymous people in Topeka. That kind of information, especially coming from politicians, in this season. I need facts to know who to address, how to address them. We've gotten one letter in the mail explaining the LAVTR, and so that's all we knew about. That's the only thing that's been mentioned to us as an avenue of relief. So could you as commissioners please give us action points, give us specific steps that we can take and people that we can contact so that we can maybe be more united, more informed, so that we can move forward.
That's what it's going to be.
That's a good point. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So just a comment, we did have a property tax task force that met 5 times in Tonganoxie and discussed all these issues as far as what can be done locally to reduce property taxes, school districts, local governments, municipalities, and then what can be done on the state level. And that was where the group sent letters and support for the continuing the LAVTR, which was started, I believe, in the 30s, way back in Depression era, because they even back then were having issues with property taxes, and it was to help folks offset their property taxes. So it wasn't, it was started by a Republican legislature. It was a Republican idea, if you want to put it that way. So then the other part was the cap on property taxes that went through the Senate, and it went over to the House. They had actually 2 hearings, one during the regular session, one during the special session, but they did not take action on it. And there was some groups, and I don't want to really call out specific groups, but if you watch the hearings, you'll see which groups they are. Senator Tyson had quite a colloquy with one of the lobbyists from one of the groups at those hearings, and it was they were worried about their special interest might get gorged if we capped property taxes for all Kansans.
All I'm saying is you better
Yeah.
hurry here. You need to marshal your forces.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we've been trying to do. And reach out to me after this. I don't have your information, so contact me. It's easy on the website to get a hold of me, and I'd be glad to meet with you. I feel like that's exactly what we've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years. Is trying to. I feel like I'm bombarding people with the information. My phone every night. My granddaughter says, "Papa, can you go outside when you talk to people on the phone? Because we're hearing the same thing over and over and over and over." So we're trying to.
But it doesn't reach when there's thousands and thousands of people. It only,
Yeah, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about it and get more information to you. Yes, sir. Could you give her name and address?
Yeah, good morning. I'm Jack Walter, and I'm with CII Foods here in Leavenworth, and president of the company. I'm here. First of all, I want to let you know you're in a tough predicament here. You're in a no-win situation. So I commend you. Trying to put a square peg in a round hole. But I'm here to support the Leavenworth Development Company and the Port Authority. I think we at CII Foods is a perfect example of economic development, and I sent a letter to each one of you last week. Hopefully you got it. We're a company that started here in we've been here 20 years, and so in 20 years we've gone from a $7 million operation to over $90 million. We'll be pushing over $100 million by next year. We want to add more capacity, and hoping to do that in the next 2 years. More capacity means more people means more jobs means bigger tax base. And so I firmly believe we are a perfect example of a company that the LCDC and the Port Authority brought to town and is something that you can build on. So again, going from $7 million to $90 million, we've got 204 people. Our starting pay is $20 with the incentives and all the different things. We're over $49,000. So we've got a lot of good things that I think we bring to the city and to the county. And I appreciate what you do. I appreciate the LCDC and the Port Authority. We want to continue in this area because we believe in this area. But I do really think that economic development is important. And if you don't have good economic development, the tax base could erode over a period of time. And I think I spelled that out in the letter. I just want to make it a public record of what my letter said. So I commend you. You have a very tough job. So if you're ever out in our area, we'd love to show you what we do out there. We make a lot of products that people don't know what we make, but every time you go down the aisles in the grocery stores, we're in many of those aisles. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Would you like to talk, sir?
Yeah. Don, 16953, 182nd Street, Tonganoxie, Kansas. I just have a follow-up to my brilliant wife's presentation. I was thrilled when you said that you were actually taking some legal action against the state. That's great. Anybody can identify a problem, but you have to find a solution.
Yep.
And I think that's a potential solution. My question is there a potential for a class action lawsuit with a number of counties gathered together?
That'd be a question for our legal counsel, but the short answer, which he can't give you, is yes.
We've spoken with others.
Oh, one further thing. I appreciate these people's sympathy for you having a tough job. You do have a tough job. Everybody out here has a tough job. The difference is you guys sought your tough job.
Yeah.
Don't remind us.
Good morning.
Good
Morning.
I'm Heather Green. Address is 22296 162nd Street. And I don't know if I got the short straw back here or not, but so Denise spoke about it from kind of the employee side, although she was involved in 4-H as well. Cindy McGuire about the other off things that the Extension Office offers. But my point for today is speaking on behalf of the 4-Hers, of both alumni, the current and even our futures, like she's tucked her on this little wall. Many of the things that we do as 4-Hers teach us many life skills that we may not get in other facilities or in other settings. Can schools offer FFA? Yes, they can. They're also a pricey organization and not offered at every school. So handling both our livestock, our agriculture, and our commitment to society is huge and promoted through 4-H. I personally am part of and relatively involved in, at least it seems that way, with 2 organizations that receive funding from the county. And I'm very thankful for all of that support. And I understand that budgets have to be monitored, have to be edited. But just speaking on behalf of trying to minimize those cuts to some of those that really embark on our future. Many 4-Hers grow up to be parts of their community. Like I said, I'm part of a couple, but I know that of many of the current leaders, former leaders, parents that supported them that sit in this audience, these are your community volunteers as well. The number of hours that are clocked, we have over, I think Sonia said about 400 kids in 4-H, and it takes over 300 volunteers to make some of those things happen. And the hours themselves are countless, and they're volunteer, just that. We sign up for it, we agree to do it because we believe in the importance of it. So, to that end, thank you for your support, and any support we can have in trying to minimize the future of our kiddos.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to ask you, I know we're not supposed to ask questions, but I'm just going to ask you a softball question.
Absolutely.
But your organization is open to folks, whether they live in the country or the city, all across the county, correct?
That is correct. Anyone can be a member of the Leavenworth County 4-H. We deal with different levels of ability, so we have any kiddo that wants to be involved, we will find a way to be involved. It is not strictly agriculture. We have plenty of kiddos who come from the city and don't have the option to have a goat or a horse or a whatever. There's lots of projects that teach life skills that kind of go along with exactly those things.
Thank you.
It's not exclusive, absolutely.
And I had a Heather Grippin. Is it Heather Grippin here?
Green.
Green, okay.
Green.
And that's what, is there?
I don't know that Heather Griffin is here.
Okay. Okay, that's why I was wondering if maybe that was an accident. Okay, and I also have a Cindy McGuire.
She already spoke.
Okay, Cindy was up.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think that's all I had for. I also had a Kimberly Kraus that had sent a letter in about CI Foods. So, okay, and so that was that. Okay, so that's all I had signed up. Is there anybody else in the room that wants to speak on the budget item? Yes, sir.
My name is Bob Keck. I'm 17792 158th Street. I appreciate the LAVTR information. I think we all are appreciative of that information, so we know that we're going to lose $4 million mostly every year. Okay. And you say go to the state and complain. Talk to our representatives. I thought it was our job, the job of our representatives, to represent us. So who in our state representatives in our area voted for or against this tax termination?
We're not supposed to talk, but every single one of them voted it out.
Every single one of them.
Yep.
Why are we having these people represent us?
That's what we've been trying to do.
Because a lot of folks just don't know.
Because most people don't know about it.
They just don't know about it.
We're the ones that sent the letter out last year in your tax bill to inform you about the LAVTR because we found out 90% of the people didn't even know about it.
And they were not.
Why do they represent us if they aren't representing us?
I'll tell you. No, let me just speak on this real quick. I'll make it very clear. The parties nowadays don't represent the people. You have a party, and I don't care if you're Republican, Independent, Democrat, heathen, I don't care what you are. But the problem is you get a couple people that get in the power, which we've seen, and they control. And they literally tell the people up in this area who are elected, you will vote this way, period.
Or
you will not have anything passed down or come in your direction. It's just that simple.
Or
and what,
next election cycle,
you will not be supported.
Individuals that are in those political power areas aren't representing their people either.
That's right.
You're going to see all of us gone shortly because we're trying to tell you this information. Exactly.
We need to vote everybody out.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to come up and speak?
Just one comment. When we said $4 million, that was for the county's portion.
Right,
The
that's just for the
cities would
county.
also be getting money from LAVTR.
Yeah, that's a lot too.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're ready to wrap this up then and move on.
Yep.
We're going to close the public hearing at this time. We're going to consider a motion to approve Resolution 2024-20, a resolution to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate. I'll consider a motion.
I move that we approve Resolution 2024-20, a resolution to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
I'll second it.
Only.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
I think we should discuss that.
There's no way we can not.
I have never voted to exceed the revenue neutral rate until this budget. I'm going to vote yes on this.
Oh,
and
man,
the reason,
wait a second.
The reason is because of the county courthouse. I don't see any possible way that we could possibly.
Thank you, Commissioner
But
Stephen,
that being said,
for finally coming to your senses.
that
I lost $100 on this deal.
But I will be proposing some substantial budget cuts when we get to talking about the budget. And I think that the equation is not all mill levy. The equation is also reducing spending. So when we get to that point, I will be proposing, and at least for our consideration, that we should talk about making some reductions in spending.
So I like what Commissioner Shemke had brought up. All the budgets need to be increased. It's a necessity. But it shouldn't be coming from the local taxpayers. That's what we got to fix. So anyway, anybody else have any discussion?
No, I'm just impressed with Commissioner Stevens.
I'm in shock.
Then we'll move with the vote.
You're making me wonder if I should vote no.
Starting with Commissioner.
We haven't heard your yes yet.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Next, a motion.
And I want to state, before we move to that, I also want to say it's ridiculous that we even had to do something like this to say we want to do a revenue neutral budget. I think it's absolutely unnecessary. It was just another move by the state of Kansas and the legislators to try to manipulate the commissioners and the voters. And we do this exact same thing every year, with or without revenue neutral, that we paid $15,000 to send out these notices is what it cost the clerk's office to send out the notices to say whether we were going to be revenue neutral or not. We can be revenue neutral with our budget if we trim the budget to the point where we don't spend any more money than we spent last year. We don't have to have legislation that says that's the way we're supposed to do it. It's just...
Vicki, I got a question. Is the state revenue neutral?
No, they are not revenue neutral. They don't have to abide by that.
They exempted themselves from that law.
They're exempted from that law.
Yeah.
And their budget was not revenue neutral.
And it would be nice if a consideration of changing the law would be if you could allow for rate of inflation, have a third choice that we will go up rate of inflation. I mean, it is not, government cannot, unless you're in a time of extreme economic downturn, government will not maintain at a revenue neutral level because even your family budget doesn't maintain at a revenue neutral
Mike,
budget.
they tried that when they had the tax lid.
And one of the reasons...
we never went over rate of inflation, so we never had to go for a vote.
Yeah, they had a
They
tax
didn't
limit
like
on us once, and that was, another topic.
Nobody was happy with that either.
No, because they talk about all these high tax or budgets, but nobody ever went over that rate of
Well, there was always ways to get around it.
Well, but we never had to do it.
Yeah.
So.
And all of our representatives on the House side voted in favor, and some sponsored the bill for revenue neutral.
Truth in taxation.
The truth in taxation. And we tell you the truth. I kind of resent
Not
being
we
told
were
that we're
not
not
telling the
truthful
truth.
about our, we're out here very transparent.
And I don't think that law is all bad.
I think it's ridiculous.
Well, we will just disagree on that one, because I do think it brings transparency to the process and it makes us take a vote.
But we did that before.
Well,
We did all that
We're getting ready to take a
I
vote
like-
on the
I
regular
like-
budget here in just a few
We'll
minutes.
disagree on that piece of legislation.
Well,
Okay.
So,
bad legislation.
Okay. Anything else? Discussion for the, okay. So we have a motion
We voted. Now
It's
we're
been a
gonna
long
go to
day,
the
Jeff.
next.
for the,
we have another.
for the
Revenue
budget.
neutral.
For the budget, yeah, I'm talking about. So a motion to approve the Leavenworth County budget for 2025.
Well, did we have another, was there?
After
Yeah,
this.
that's after mine.
Yeah. We'll have the next, other funds next. This is a motion to approve the Leavenworth County budget itself for 2025. And I want to add to that, what we're actually saying here is if we approve the 2 mil increase that we're talking about, this is going to cost most people about $5 a month. So that's what we're talking about approving right now.
So,
Maybe more.
now I would like to
Most
offer some reductions in spending. I would suggest that we implement well, just before I make the motion, I'll read the numbers to you. If we reduce spending approximately 1% in the agencies that spend more than $500,000, we would bring in an additional $300,000 in revenue. So if we had a across-the-board cut of 1%, represents $300,000. 2% is, of course, an additional $300,000, which would bring you up to $600,000. So my suggestion, and I would just 1% or 2%, but I think 1% is very reasonable. So my suggestion is that we reduce. We have 2 county counselors. We reduce the spending for one of the county counselor positions. That's $160,000. I suggest that we reduce the budget director position. That's $80,000. And then we have 2 security doors that are being maintained with deputies at this point. I suggest that for 1 year during this time of economic downturn that we reduce that to 1 door. Everyone will come in through the handicapped entrance, and that would save us with the benefits approximately $100,000. And then by reducing those FTEs by 3 or 4 positions, that's going to save you about $95,000. So making those reductions would save the county $640,000, and that's at the 1% cut, which the 1% cut would only require the largest budgets to cut their budgets by only about $135,000. And out of a $13 million budget, that's a very small cut. So I guess I want to put it out there, 1% or 2%. 1% gets us the reduction of $640,000. 2% gets us up to another $300,000 above that.
So you're saying only give the employees a 1% raise?
That's not what I said.
Well,
no, I said we were across the board cut in the department. We're not changing the county raise.
Okay.
It's just across the board reduction for their department. They each department would be responsible for finding the
But you're talking about
resources.
cutting 2 jobs?
Well, probably would be 3 jobs. It'd be the one of the county councilors.
So you're
Yes.
cutting 3 jobs.
And that would save an additional $95,000 in
I have a question for
employee
you.
benefits.
I have one question for you. We have been having these discussions for months. And like every other budget year since I've been on the county commission with you, you wait until this day at this time to ask us to make a decision of that magnitude, and I think that is unfair. And then I'm also going to say that when we continually reduce our budget over and over and over again to win brownie points or I don't know what for what purpose, we maintain and we are buying into part of the reason that we're in financial difficulties. We shouldn't be lowering our budget. We have indicated we can't afford to lower our budget. And then you are trying to come up with solutions for lowering it rather than saying what we should have been doing for the past, since I've been on the commission for 6 years, we should have been trying to maintain a flat mill levy so that we could address all the needs that we have. We wouldn't have a building that's falling down around us. We wouldn't, if we were doing the maintenance that should have been done to begin with. Trying to win votes is not the way to run a government. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
can I respond to that? Because I'm not trying to win votes by doing this. I'm trying to be a fiscal conservative and see where we can.
Then
and
why
when we're
didn't we do this
Can I have
ago?
my moment at the microphone? Thanks.
You've had it.
I'm responding to what you just said.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. This is the budget timeline that's provided from the state on what our deadlines are. We are not up against a hard deadline that this has to be completed today, so there's no surprise that this is being put out here. This can be, we still have time on this timeline for consideration or to carry this budget over till the next week to make a decision, or the following week even. We're within the time frame of the Kansas law. Secondly, when we're talking about cutting, many times we're not really talking about cutting. We're talking about cutting the increase, reducing the level of increase. Because all of these budgets are receiving an increase in spending, you're cutting that amount of increase back. You're not actually that's the dilemma when you're talking about budgets on the part of government. Many times when you say, "Oh, you're cutting," well, we're not really cutting. We're just reducing your 3% increase or your 2% increase. So what I'm suggesting is that I agree with one of the speakers said, okay, let's meet us halfway on this budget. Instead of just all of it being put on the taxpayers as far as a mill levy increase, let's show the taxpayers that we also are concerned and we can actually put some skin in the game and make some actual real reductions. Are these things that are going to make I don't want to cut anything. I want all these positions to be retained, and I don't want to make any changes to the budget. But that's not realistic in a time when we're telling people that it's an emergency, that we're just going to say, well, it's an emergency, but all we can do is raise your taxes. No, it's an emergency. We're going to have to raise your taxes, which I voted to go above revenue neutral. But part of the equation is on the spending side.
Right, but you identified one as a clerk position. That is a position that was moved from one department to the county budget department, and so we still need that position. To eliminate that position is really not a very good idea. That's number one. Number two, as I said, what we have done in the past is what has brought us to this point of the emergency. It is not. Today we have an emergency that we should not have. That you act like we should have never anticipated this. This has been coming for as long as I've been on the county commission because we have repeatedly cut when we should have been maintaining or increasing.
Well, I've always supported whatever the recommendations were from Buildings and Grounds as far as their long-term maintenance. I think this has been a surprise how quickly the building has deteriorated. I don't think anybody anticipated that. Also, we don't have $5 million just sitting around, and we wouldn't have had $5 million sitting in any kind of a fund for this situation to happen. So I am in favor of what you're talking about, of being proactive and having a capital improvement plan and planning for the future. I'm in favor of that, and in all of the budgets we've done, I feel like we've tried to do that.
We've had that, and we have cut the mill levy and reduced the mill levy every year, even in light of having a
No, I don't agree with that.
I have two questions for Mark. One is, has past commissions put any funding aside to maintain the courthouse before it?
No, we put aside just the minimum amount to do the annual maintenance, but not long-term maintenance like a roof or air conditioning.
Yeah, so that's how we got to where we are today. The second thing I want to ask you is, could you remind me, when we started this budget process, we asked all the departments to turn in their budgets. Could you give me just a short synopsis of what they told you when they turned in their budgets and what you asked for and what they actually turned in?
Yeah, so commissioners, back when we started the budget process, we met with the Board of County Commissioners and asked what our goal was for this year, and it was to try and maintain a flat mill levy. So we asked each department to actually look at what that meant, including the increase in the cost of health benefits and whatnot. So each budget, I asked them to try to stay within 2.5% increase or below. Most budgets came in below that, actually. All of them came in at the 2.5% increase, which inflation is 2.9%. So they all did that. In fact, on the one slide that I showed you, many of them came in underneath what they were last year in order to help us get to where we needed to be. I think that's when we talk about additional cuts. We asked the departments to do something. They went, took the task, and did it. They accomplished that. And then to come back later and say, well, just kidding, now we want additional, it's frustrating to the departments, and it's frustrating to me because that's the direction we were given.
It's frustrating to me.
We have enhancements, identified those enhancements. That's the increase to the budget, not the overall operations of the county. It's those enhancements that we specifically identified. The enhancements that are requiring a mill levy increase are the road and bridge enhancement and the enhancement in order to be able to pay for the improvements to the courthouse. That's the mill levy increase. Otherwise, we're at a flat mill.
Exactly.
That's my point.
Could I just, I've got a recommendation too, even though, Mike, I appreciate what you're saying, but we did start this process early. Just my thoughts on it, and county commissioners may not want to hear it. Been doing the numbers, I never agreed with the 2 mills. I think we brought the mill down to 1.6 and funded the things that we've been asked to fund because they're quality of life issues, including LCDC at their 162 or 168, whatever it is. If we went ahead, and the way we could get there, if we took extended a year on the building, we could save about $250,000, $260,000. If we did about $250 on the road and bridge, which would still give them close to $900,000 after putting in $1 million and something last year, would still be able to get us by, and the mill would still only be at 1.6. We've got the 1 mill coming because we've got to fix this building. That's an absolute. But this would keep everybody going till next year in time to work with LCDC and maybe the extension office to see if there's some other stuff, because we know we've been talking to you about the money's coming to an end. And you folks are absolutely right. And yes, one gentleman asked, has other counties want to be involved in the lawsuit? Yes, other counties have definitely shared the information they want to. But we did these things. We keep everybody in place. I don't want to cut anybody, not this time. I think if we were going to do that, we should have done that 4 months ago when we were talking. But we can go 1.6 on the mill levy, drop it down from the 2 that was a max, and still, I think, get everything accomplished. Now, that's just me speaking, folks.
Well, this budget still cuts
So,
the LCDC.
My opinion
I'm adding that.
So my opinion of this is, I don't know if you guys haven't been listening to me, but we should be spending $4 million a year on road and bridge. We're only spending about 1.5. Right. So this 2 mil increase is still kicking the can down the street for the next commissioners or the next commissioners to have bridges failing, because even with this 2 mil increase, we're still not funding road and bridge what we should be funding them. So,
but Jeff, there's one thing. These people in here are looking at us, and we know where the problem is with state, but we cannot continue to put these mill levy increases on these people's backs. Even though it may not sound like we're kicking it down, I still think $2 million or a little over $2 million in 2 years is something that we weren't doing in the past.
So, Mike, you're saying close bridges. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying we have to take a look at things like that. But if we keep looking at this, they're still getting $800,000 out of the 1.1. That can still do a lot of things through that.
We're $3 million short on road and bridge.
That's where we have to make some spending reductions, and that would help to offset it. So I'm going to make a motion. I probably won't. I'm just going to make the motion.
Go ahead.
That we reduce $160,000 from the county councilor position, remove the budget director position, $80,000, make a 1% $300,000 cut, and say we should also, because of that, and then the $100,000 for security at the front door, moving that we will have one door open. That will be the handicap door downstairs. Will be the public entrance for the next year, and that will save us approximately $640,000. And the reductions from all departments with expenditures exceeding $500,000, excluding the health department, EMS, courthouse, building and grounds, and any and all funds with capital maintenance of the building and infrastructure, and that would get us to $640,000 cut, and that's my motion.
And you still want to fund outside agencies?
But we can talk about that as a separate issue. This is the
You
motion.
want to cut 3 jobs and fund outside agencies who's not going to cut any.
I didn't say what my position is on that.
So I'm trying to
We'll
do
get to that.
So I'm trying to do the math on the top of my head, Mark. What would the $640,000 cost the average taxpayer with a $175,000 home? What would that save them a year? Making the suggestion that Commissioner Stephen is, what would this actually save most people in a dollar amount? I'm guessing less than 50 cents.
It would be less than. I know it's less than $3. I don't know the number off the top of my head. I'd have to.
Yeah, it'd be
So it's really not that big of a deal for us to go ahead and make this small cut. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and be short $3 million on road and bridges. Not that.
No, I'm not cutting road and bridges.
Yeah.
130,000. It'll be $135,000.
Where do you think that's going to shift?
We're giving them a $1.2 million increase.
Okay.
We're shaving from the $1.2 million increase. We're taking $135,000 off.
Okay. Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Do I have a second? Hearing none, motion dies. Still entertain a motion for approving the Leavenworth County budget for 2025.
This is probably going to be shot right over down the toilet, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. It's what I just proposed. 1.6 dropping from the 2, taking a few $100,000 from the road and a few $100,000, which would delay the payments on the roof, but still get it done in a timely manner and still be able to fund the agencies that we're trying to keep alive.
And the payments on the roof, delaying it is going to cost more money because everything goes up every year that anything is delayed.
Well, I guess the choice comes down to it. How do you want to pay for this stuff? Do you want to put it on these people out the audience, or how do we want to do this? I'm not going to do that. I think $1 million was enough to get this roof fixed, but you've got to look at some places that you can keep LCDC, keep the extension office, keep these other things going. If we don't, a lot of people use these things. Yeah, they're quality of life issues, but they're things that people in this community use.
But what is the letters we sent out that said
You're
the
right,
funding was
we
coming
did.
to an end? Has anybody did anything? I mean, we got a letter from Leavenworth School District supporting LCDC. They're contributors. They give $150 for it.
Oh, I know.
You know, the cities don't give what they should be giving toward that. I mean, all the growth's in the city on the industrial parks. The city should be supporting that more than the county.
So question for Mark. This budget, if it was voted on right now, it contains the full funding for the outside agencies as far as the 4-H county extension.
Except for the
The
Port
budget,
Authority.
as presented, would include flat funding for the agencies. It wouldn't include what they've asked for. It includes flat funding.
From
so
what their last
what they
year's
got
budget.
this year would be what they get next year.
Except not for economic development.
Except for the Port Authority, which there is $23,000 budgeted in there.
That's why it's 1.6 and not 1.5.
Okay, so that's good clarification. Thank you.
So that's your motion?
I don't have a motion. I made my motion.
That was my motion.
Yeah. Do we have a second?
It was 1.6, Mike.
Hearing no second, I'll still entertain a motion for Leavenworth County 2025 budget.
Are you going to amend the budget as far as the economic development?
Well, how can we amend it? We'll have to take money out of Road and Bridge then, correct?
Well,
it's
asking.
question.
You would not have to take
So
money out of roads and bridge. You could take it out of any. place you
Okay, is
designate.
there any place?
Clarification, Commissioner. There in the Economic Development Fund, there is $85,000 in that fund. 62,000 is special projects. 23,000 is Port Authority currently. You could take the special projects and give it to the Port Authority, put them up to 85,000 without amending the budget itself.
So what would we need to do that? Just make a.
Well, the funds are already in there, so it's not actually changing the budget. You could approve the budget as presented and then just give me direction to, after the budget's approved, give me direction to allocate that $62,000 to the Port Authority.
But we're still not adequate. They're still not going to be funded to the level that they have expressed that they need.
This is
That's
only
correct.
80-something thousand you're talking about, Mark.
That'd be a total of about $85,000.
It's already in the budget.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no guarantee, and that's what the public needs to understand. There is absolutely no guarantee that that money will be restored after this year's budget.
There's no guarantee to any of these
Right.
budgets.
No, just
That's why I dropped.
No, I'm trying to make that clear.
That's why I dropped it from 2 mills instead of 1.5, 1.6 to make sure they got that funding.
Well, the
Up to
chairman
what
of
they
their
asked for
group
last year.
said that last week that would be like a compromise.
They could live with it, but we all know. Well, yeah, they did say that.
So do I have a motion to approve Leavenworth County budget as is, as presented?
Motion to approve the Leavenworth County budget as presented.
Second. Any more discussion?
I just am disappointed that we have not figured out a way of funding economic development when we're part of the problem that we're facing is that we need economic development in our county. I mean, then it needs to be enhanced and improved and increased, and we need to stop putting all of the burden onto the residential property taxpayers, and
Absolutely.
taking that step back is not accomplishing that. But that's just my opinion, and I'm out of
Absolutely.
here after this year.
Like when the cereal ingredients guy was talking, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but LCDC was very instrumental in keeping them. We had the threat of losing them
Yes.
to St. Joe. I think they were going to pull out. He just talked about the $100 million annual economic impact they make to this community. We almost lost them, but thanks to LCDC, we did not. So when you talk about compromise, my compromise was to ask LCDC to please dip into your rainy day fund of $800,000 to cover your expenses for this 1 year until we can put in place a funding mechanism, like we were talking about the 3/8 mill or automatic. So we wouldn't have this discussion. The next commissioners wouldn't have to have this discussion about how to fund LCDC. It would be automatic.
Well, I just think with 2 mills going up, with the way this economy is, something like that, it may be only $5 or $10 or $20, but some of the people that go from day to day, that's $5 or $10 or $20 that they're going to have to find. And we've got the opportunity to complete everything in this budget and still give them everything they need for the most part. And we're going to sit here and talk about increasing it to 2 instead of doing 1.5 or 1.6. It just floors me.
How much is that in dollars a month to the average taxpayer, Mike?
It depends.
I know.
Look
Well, what's the average?
But I tell you,
About just rough it.
What the average?
Is that $1 even?
But it doesn't matter, Jeff. It's still an increase.
It absolutely matters when you're paying $1.
They're paying for it.
It's $1 when we're $3 million behind. This is why we're in the.
But we're not.
This is why the courthouse is falling apart. Because
This is the only thing.
$1 here and $1 there.
And I'm all for the roof. It is. The sky is falling. Let's put that mill in there.
Yeah.
But not everything needs to be done exact right now with the way this economy is.
Yeah, I get it.
I respect your opinion.
I get it.
Thank Jeff. I just disagree with you.
Yeah, I get it. So we have a motion, and I seconded it.
Yeah.
So we'll begin voting with Commissioner Doug Smith.
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. So motion fails. So we do not have a motion to approve the County 25 budget. So we will move on, unless anybody wants to make another motion.
I do have a question for the county councilor. Can this budget, can we recess this for further consideration at another time?
It's kind of unfair to all these people that are here today.
Sorry, could you rephrase?
Can we recess the budget consideration to another time certain?
You could table it or recess it.
It is a public hearing, so you would have to, I believe, do date certain.
Date and time certain.
And you need enough time to get it. What, are we going to miss any deadlines for the notice?
Does it have to be noticed again?
That's why you would have to table it, because you cannot renotice it. You've set this as the date for approval.
That's
You've
my
set
point.
this as the date for the revenue neutral.
I don't think we should reset this. I think we should continue discussion
Discuss and
to
debate.
discuss
Well, I
this.
just want to get the question answered. So it is allowed, though, that you would be able to table it to next week's meeting if it would just be a continuation of this meeting.
Legally, I believe you could table the discussion.
That's not what we're up here for. We're up here to fix it.
We're here to make a decision.
Right. It wouldn't have to be a new public hearing. It would just be a tabling.
To vote on the budget.
Right. That's.
Well, why can't we continue to discuss?
We can.
And come
We
to
can.
look at more compromise. I mean, I know that we have Commissioner Smith that has 1.6. That failed. We have 2 that has failed, but that seems to be the most appetite is someplace in between there or one of the, so is there any room for?
Well, I guess we could do the one, Mark, on my numbers, I'm a calculator. We could do 1.8 if we do it's 250,000 times. We could do 1.8 if we keep the road and bridge in place.
Well, you can make any adjustment to that you'd like, Commissioner. I mean, there's
yeah,
no.
but I know some of the sticking issues are road and bake. So if we only took 250,000 off, that's a quarter of a mil, correct?
Quarter of a mil.
So we did that, and we could do
It's a little less
1.8
than
and leave the road and bridge alone.
Yes, that you could do that.
That would be my.
But Commissioner Smith is not comfortable with the continuation of funding. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out where we are on.
Well, let's make sure we get everybody. I'm the 1.8. Who on this commission has a problem with that 1.8, and we need to start over again?
Me.
Okay.
I'm not going to support it.
Mike?
I agree with the comment that was made by a member of the audience that we cannot just ride this out on the taxpayer as far as mill. We have to make spending reductions.
We have drastically way past being responsible.
Over the past 6 years.
With that.
Well, we have.
It's a reduction in the rate of increase.
Yeah, sometimes the right thing to do is not the responsible or the popular thing to do. The responsible thing to do is not the popular thing to do.
Yeah, well, we've kicked that
Well, I'm
can
not
down
worried
the
about
road.
the popular thing, Bill. I'm worried about how I would look at it if I was hearing how this is going to come out of the meeting. We're going up 2%. I don't care how we rearrange this. I really think that the people have made good presentations, but I think that the 2 mills is just too high. And I don't care if it's $5 or $10. It's still too high. We're watching the schools. I know we have no control. Look at the schools, what they're getting ready done. 2, 4, and 6%. Come on, people. You're going to tax them to death.
But what are we going to? And we can't.
We can't control it. I know.
But we keep accepting responsibility for those decisions. We keep accepting responsibility of the bad decisions that have been made at the state level. We keep accepting responsibility for the budgets that have been developed by the school boards.
And the previous commissioners.
And the previous commissioners. I mean, I'm just saying, and the voters voted, although dismally, and by the voter turnouts, for all of the school board, things that have come forward for building the new schools or the bond issues. The voters have voted for that. So whether you were in favor or not, whether you voted no, and there's still the majority of the people spoke and said yes, well, the consequence of that and not having really good, strong voter turnout is that those people who made it out there and voted or filled out the form and sent it back in the mail, their voice wins. And then all of us have to pay for that. That's the natural consequence of that. And that's why it's so important to vote. That's why it's so important to pay attention to what's happening in each and every community and in each and every district, what is happening and why. And so we're all stuck with that. But we have made decisions as long as I've been on this board, and I am probably the least popular person. I am no longer considered to be a Republican by people in the county. But I have made the decisions I've made by looking at what those budgets were in front of me and saying, is it responsible? And are we going to be able to continue to operate without eventually hitting a wall? Well, we've hit the wall. This is my last budget, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are very happy about that. But I can't support continuing to bite our nose off to spite our face. We're here with this, what we're calling an emergency. Yes, the economy's bad. The economy's been bad before, and it's been weathered before. But we had staff that came to us, and they gave us a budget that was very fair and reasonable and responsible. And they made all of the cuts and the hard decisions for us. And we looked at them, and ostensibly we said, this looks good to us. Now today we're saying, but that's not good enough.
We never said that we agreed with every one of those decisions from staff. But to be fair, if you watch the budget hearings, that was not what we said.
I'm just saying, but that was the consensus.
But on top of that, too, when we set the 2 mills, that we all agreed, or we all thought, I thought we did, that may not be the point that we end up at. That was the max we could do.
Right.
And so we should
which is correct.
So we should be talking at less things. And Mike, some of the things you brought up, if you brought those up in April or March and brought some figures to me, I've been looking at that, but I don't see us doing it and making these cuts at the last minute.
We have over a month.
I know, but we didn't discuss this. We had them come in at 2%. All the departments, which we have a ton of folks elected, come in, and we went over this, and we said that. I made it very clear at the time I wasn't happy with 2 mills, but now to come back and try to cut some folks or cut some people, this is not the time to be doing that.
Well, I mean, this is part of the budget process, and this is where we're at.
I agree.
So let me share with you why I didn't agree with your motion mostly. Your motion is basically taking care of outside agencies and cutting core county functions. So if anything else comes out of this meeting, I hope it's that all the outside agencies realize that we've been trying to tell you for 3 or 4 years now, you are the lowest hanging fruit. We're going to take care of core county functions first and non-essential county functions last. So so far we've voted to keep you in 1 more year. The motion that got the farthest anyway is keeping you in 1 more year, but I'm telling you, do not expect any county money next year.
Jeff, I have to disagree with that. I think we voted to do that, but I always said that I wanted to review this every year because I think there's some things that make Leavenworth County the place to live in. They're quality of life issues.
Yes.
And so I did not agree with that. We did send the letters, and I definitely was hoping we'd see some reduction or something like that, and I agree with that part on it. But for me to say I'm going to take these people and not put them in our budget when I know what they do in the community, I didn't vote on that.
Are we going to add any more to them? Well, what do we do when some other organization comes in here and wants to be added to the county budget?
We have to make the decision on what we're going to do.
So let me just say on these local budgets, as far as outside agencies, in 2021, our budget for outside agencies was $970,358. Our budget for 2025 for outside agencies is $453,486. We have cut $500,000 out of the outside agencies' expenditures. This has been trending down over time. So it's not that, and if you look at the other budget, to compare outside agencies, it's a very small part of the budget, but to compare that to the large budgets that have been ballooning, it's like apples and oranges. But we have been, over time, reducing the expenditures to outside agencies. But I do agree with Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Cause that some of this is quality of life issues, and some of these are necessary functions for the county. But we've cut it. We've cut it substantially.
I think you're misconstruing what I'm saying. I don't want to cut any of them. I don't want to cut any of the outside agencies. I agree with what you guys are saying. What I'm saying is every time we got to cut the budget every year when people aren't figuring out what the real problem is and they think it's the county budget, guess what's going to get cut next? The non-core county essential departments.
But we're not really cutting. The thing, in my opinion, just the things that's being promoted right here are an addition to what we set in the budgets for next year. On the road and bridge, and the roof, and a couple of things, those are additions, a couple $1 million addition to what the budget was last year. So we are going up and doing things. When you're looking at going 2 mills or something like that, you are adding stuff to try to stay ahead of this and take care of business.
I understand, but we had the windfall of having the funds that that have helped to repair our box culverts, all those things. That was a windfall. If that money had not come around, we would be doing that out of our budget, the budget that is existing right now, or we would have kicked the can down the road yet again, and we would have readjusted our plan for the future, and this is probably what will continue to the future. I'm just
look at
trying
it
to
different,
make.
Vicki. If we hadn't received the money from the COVID or whatever you want to call it, I might be looking at this a little different. But the fact is, we did receive the money, so we could go out and do those projects. So that gave us some relief.
Well, it did give us some relief. It gave us the relief of doing the Cushing, and I understand that. What I'm saying is, if it hadn't, we would not have been able to do any of the things that we've done. But we continue to try to accept the responsibility for certain decisions that have been made, and I'll say it again, at the state level, like the decision not to fund the local ad valorem for decades now, for not funding that. We have accepted the responsibility of covering that and lowering the property taxes over and over, or keeping the mill flat over and over and over again, so that they can continue to ignore the fact that they're not doing their job, and they can play the song and dance game that is blaming the local governing bodies, when that is not where the responsibility always lies. Yes, we are debating right now what to do with our budget, but we have to understand that the budget that has been brought to us with the enhancements and everything is a budget that's necessary.
I agree. Mike, let me ask you a question. Do you support the budget in any form unless we take those cuts out that you're asking for?
You mean if you would adopt some of the cuts rather than?
Well, right now there's none of them that you've said that are on the table. Would there's anything in there that you look at?
If you would agree, I think we need to show the taxpayers that we're not just looking at one side of the equation. We're also looking at the spending side of the equation.
I agree, Mike.
And if we did a 1% cut and left the positions alone, that would be a $300,000 approximately.
But you're wanting to cut road and bridge.
I'm $250,000. I'm trying to say would lower that and to keep everybody in the thing. $200,000.
So the 1% cut would only be $135,000 out of road and bridge.
But it would
but when
be 1%
take it down
for
to the mill
everyplace
levy,
else.
when you bring it down, Mike.
Only the agencies that are above a certain threshold.
Oh, I got it. I see what you're saying.
It would not affect low funded agencies or anything to do with the infrastructure or the building.
But that's. I'm more amiable to working with Commissioner Smith to try to figure out what between the two.
Yeah, I think we can't be
if we can't come to a decision.
We can't come to agreement. And I know I'm passionate about it, and I don't disagree with you. Believe me, but I think 1.8 with moving some of these numbers around and taking care of the things that come out here. I know some people don't want the outside agency. We need them. In my opinion, we need them. 3 of us already said that we're not going to throw them away. Next year, we're going to take a look at them. If you're looking at 1.8, then you're cutting it down. You're leaving the road and bridge the way it is, and you're basically just taking a year down the road. If I'm correct, Mark, a year down the road, instead of paying off the building in 4 years, you pay it off in 5 years. Yeah, that's interest on that, but it gets the budget approved and gets the people in place that we need in place. And who says next year, and I know they've been getting bad unless the state helps it, but who says next year we won't be in a better position, even though it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine, but we kind of take care of this year's budget for next year.
So, Mike, if Mr. Commissioner Smith, I'm basically compromising with you to halfway. I'm reducing the amount of spend reduction down to $300,000 from $640. So that's we're going to be increasing the mill levy 2 mills, and that's approximately $2.4 million extra revenue.
I don't want to do 2 mills. I want to do 1.8.
Well, I'm just saying what we're talking about right now. So if we're only going to reduce the budget by $300,000, you can see how people would look at that.
I
We're not
say
making
that we
much
get
cuts.
everything approved that we're trying to get approved. That's the way I look at it. That's what a budget's for. If you want to get things done, there's compromise. I'm throwing out something else. Mike, we're not that far off. Bet $250,000 and leave the road and bridge and bring it down to 1.8 and leave these other things in place. I know how Jeff feels and I know how Doug feels. I'm guessing, guys. But we need.
Guess how I feel. I know how I feel.
Yeah. So I'm saying the 1.8, Mike, would get us, be a compromise what you're saying.
Okay, 1.8 mills is now you're going to reduce your revenue by, what is that going to bring?
It's roughly $230,000, probably. I'm just guessing.
It's not quite 250, Mike. It's about
What the
230.
proposal would be then is that we reduce the amount that we're setting aside for the courthouse, the payment for the courthouse repairs.
If I understand it correctly in my old ways, what we're doing is we'll be paying a year longer, or whatever it is.
Yeah, maybe not even that.
Maybe
It
6
just
months
depends
longer.
on what the total expense is.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
We will fund,
But that will be in the budget from now on.
but then the Port Authority will be funded.
Yes,
Is that correct?
At the 85,000.
At the 85,000.
unless we go up a little bit. I'm not trying to throw the Port Authority, but I know they said they could do that, and I really want to be on their committee next year so I can work with them to try to get that back. But they did say they could live 1 year with that. So Mike, I didn't interrupt you, but I'm saying the 230,000 and leave the bridge and stuff alone, but keep the agencies in line would be.
Well, the only problem is that any reductions you're making are only on the building. You're not making any others.
Well, I'm not sure we should.
I would vote for that. If the only reduction is going to be in the courthouse renovation.
I think that's
That's
what
what
he's
I'm
talking
doing.
about.
That's what I'm doing, Jeff.
I would vote
At
for
1.8 and leave the road and
I
bridge
like
alone.
scaffolding. I had scaffolding in my house for 20 years.
So
That's what we're asking people to pay.
I'm making a motion. I made a motion that we do 1.8 is a mill levy increase, and the road and bridge stay the same, and the 230 whatever
Okay. So the motion would be to approve the county budget as proposed with the amendment of reducing $230,000 out of the courthouse repairs.
That's it.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Begin voting with Commissioner Doug Smith.
No.
Commissioner Mike Stevens.
Yes.
Say no.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Lord.
Okay, moving on. Resolution 2024-21, a resolution to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate for Leavenworth County Special Other Funds budget. We're going to open the public hearing. Anybody that would like to speak for 3 minutes, come up to the podium, state your name and address. It's kind of the same thing as the general budget. It's just about special funds instead of the normal.
This is the special budget. The local service roads are the budget for, like I had referred to before, kind of the gravel roads.
This shouldn't take long.
Yeah.
How long you guys?
Seeing no one wanting to speak, we'll close the public hearing. Going once, twice, gone. Okay, consider motion to approve the resolution 2024-21, a resolution to levy property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate for the Leavenworth County Special Other Funds budget. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Resolution 2024-21, a resolution to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate for Leavenworth County Special Other Funds budget.
Second.
Motion and a second. No further discussion?
I do got some discussion.
Yes, sir.
I guess this is for our legal counsel. On the, whether we're a county road unit or are we because like I said, there's only 2 or 3 other counties in the state that have a local service road budget.
Commissioners, I think I'd term what you have as a hybrid between the two systems. You could certainly re-examine how you do that, and you could eliminate the local service road.
Well, I mean, I don't know, is a hybrid legal? I mean, is there a legal, I'm sure it's either one or the other.
Well, the current system has been in place for at least 3 decades.
It should be legal.
I like the system the way it is.
October 1973.
Or are you questioning the fact that the road and bridge subsidizes local service, or that
I'm questioning whether we should just not have local service and everybody pay into the road and bridge budget.
Well, everybody does pay into the road and bridge budget.
I mean, just
not everybody pays into local service.
into the local service portion.
Not everybody pays into local service.
Right.
I like it the way it is because easier way to get a little bit more funding.
But local services never supported itself.
I know.
It's always being subsidized by Road and Bridge.
But if you get rid of it, then it's all got to be under one, which is already hard
Yeah.
to get money.
And it's
Well, is
still-
it more funding?
Other taxpayers are
It wouldn't
subsidizing something they don't pay
necessarily
for.
be
I see your
countywide
point.
instead of on the local service.
I see your point. I don't honestly know what would be better, though.
What's the
Well,
procedure for
Leave it as is.
changing
Leave
it?
it alone.
Leave it alone.
I don't
If it
know
ain't
if
broke,
that's a
don't fix it.
conversation we're prepared for today. We've talked about this several times. We've had 2 work sessions at least on it. So, but it's probably not a portion of the county budget. Be happy to continue to have work sessions on that. But as of today, I'm not prepared to give you an answer.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I just want to make sure it's legal, how we collect the taxes on it.
How we collect the taxes is legal. Subsidizing it with the Road and Bridge Fund is allowed because they're still Road and Bridge. I think that whether you approve this budget today or not doesn't change the processes that we've had in place.
I look at it like you got to connect the cities with county roads, so the people in the city need them too.
Not all the gravel roads, though. I don't need a gravel road.
Well, some.
I can leave my house
I'm just saying,
on
there's just-
hardtop.
We know we're not keeping up with the Road and Bridge.
Absolutely.
We know that. And I mean, I know
$2.5
we're
million
gonna-
short every year.
You know, when you're talking about,
But
you know,
at least it's being supplemented somehow.
Yeah,
Even
I mean,
if
we're
it's
doing
not
what we
fully
can.
done, we're
Right.
doing what we
We're doing
can.
what we can.
It is,
yeah.
Without too much of a shock.
no, it doesn't seem to be
Yeah, I'm
broken,
fine with
so
it.
Okay.
Okay.
No further discussion?
Nope.
Begin voting with Commissioner Doug Smith.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Motion to approve the Leavenworth County Special Other Funds budget for 2025 as presented.
so moved.
Do I have a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, begin voting with Commissioner Doug Smith.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Moving on, consider a motion to approve supplemental agreement for engineering services with Wilson and Company for the 235th Street project. Morning, Bill.
Morning, Commissioners. I'll try to keep this very brief today.
Thank you.
I was up
Please.
against I was up against several deadlines here for these projects. The supplemental agreement for the 235th Street project that's before you here today is directly related to the congressionally directed spending requirements that made that project a federally funded project. That then required the project to meet all federal NEPA environmental review processes and KDOT bid letting procedures, as well as Davis-Bacon wages and all of the other parameters that come with federal funding, which are greatly increased. This project was originally designed in 2018 as a chip and seal roadway. Wilson has incurred the cost without requesting a supplemental when 3 other projects that were part of the original contract were canceled, as well as when the county requested in 2020 for the cross section to be changed from a chip and seal roadway to an asphalt roadway. This cost is very comparable to the costs incurred on the 158th Street project to update those plans. While it is great to have projects on the shelf, it allows us to get the $3 million in funding. Often when you've had projects sit for 6 years or 20 years in the case of 158th Street, both receive grant funding, but at the time prior to bidding it, to try to mitigate any future change orders as much as possible, updates are required.
Very good. Is that all you got for us? Anybody have any questions
this one?
for Bill?
No?
You know when we're going to bid this project?
Currently, it is set for February of 2025. That is contingent upon the Historical Society review.
Yeah, I got a letter on that.
Yeah,
I'll
and
second
the EPA and some bat inspections.
I'll
What's
make a
the motion
motion.
need to
I'll make a
be?
motion.
Go ahead, Vicki.
Make a motion to approve the supplemental agreement for engineering services with Wilson and Company for the 235th Street project.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, begin voting with Commissioner Doug
I
Smith.
will abstain.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Bill.
Got one more.
One more.
Yep.
We got it.
It's been long, doesn't it?
One more. Sorry. Trying to push you out here. Consider a motion to approve the increase in the compensation for the cost to cure fencing for 2 properties in accordance with the current 2022 land acquisition policy in the amount of $17,347.
Commissioners, the Leavenworth County Public Works Department, we desire to be consistent with our acquisition processes. Acquisition processes are something that are sometimes very contentious. Often times on projects we do go to condemnation on several properties. We do strive to be consistent and fair with all property owners and provide equal cost to cure. This includes all improvements along the right-of-way and the cost of the actual land that is being acquired. We have 2 properties that we believe were above the $10,000 threshold that would require federally funded projects to go to the appraisal process. The first of these properties has 1,165 feet of fencing. That fencing was given 0 value by the appraisal company. That was because the fence is located between 6 inches and 2 feet inside of the right-of-way. I am sure that it is the intention of the property owner who built that fence to build that fence along the right-of-way line. However, they most likely it's through a curved section, and they built that unintentionally a couple feet inside the right-of-way. On the previous road grant project that was on Tonganoxie Road, when we went to condemnation, there was some compensation offered for fencing that was built well within drainage easements by the courts. It is not the federal requirement of the county to compensate these individuals for the fence, but it has been the practice, if it's clearly the intention of the property owner to be within their rights of the location, that we generally try to be a good neighbor. That would increase the funding for this property from just $570 for acquisition by $13,980. That is the cost according to the 2020 policy, what we do offer for fencing. The second property was offered a much reduced value for their fence. I did speak to the appraisal company. I'm not sure where they evaluated those numbers from. When we have bid fencing, from a county perspective, it has never come, the prices have never been supplied to us that low, and are also not that low on many of the KDOT bid tabs that I have reviewed for this RBA. They did appraise the fencing at $7.19 per lineal foot, but to be consistent throughout this project and the Phase 1 project on Tonganoxie Road, to increase that funding to $12 a foot, or I believe it's 12, my numbers are all laid out here, we would be increasing the fencing by $3,367.
Okay.
That may not be enough. By the time the project gets bid and gets done, the inflation's going to eat that up.
Every 2-3 months it changes.
Yeah, because you're not going to bid it till next year. Correct.
Currently, it's on the February bid letting as well with KDOT, but
just have to amend it.
If we get these 2 properties acquired, we still have one property owner who is not responded. That I have left them multiple messages. They've called and communicated via voicemail and
have to approve
some
it,
conversations.
turn in change order.
But next week we'll be looking to file a condemnation paperwork on them if they have not.
So, whether it's inside the right of way or not, it's still private property. We kind of believe in the Constitution.
Yeah.
If you're taking private property for public use, we got to give fair compensation. So,
yeah,
I'm good with this. Other than it just may not meet the inflation by the time the project's done and they actually get out there and build their fence.
Yeah, we'd have to approve it.
If that's the case, maybe that we should make a motion that if that's the case, it doesn't cover the cost. Because you're not going to get an estimate from a company and then make it good for a year and a half.
Well, I mean, that'd be automatic anyway. If we approve this and then it does end up being short, then they just turn in a change order and have us approve that as a motion, right?
Well, we just pay the folks and then they go and hire their own contractor to build the fence. The county doesn't build it.
I see.
So
I would hate to make a change based on anticipation of what might happen.
Yeah.
Certainly,
We can always come back.
know what's going to happen. It's not
those people could approach
They can
us.
come back and request us to.
We can go back.
Or should we add 5% on top of this?
Only if needed.
What we would have generally looked at, it was looked at in 2020 and then again in 2022. About every 18 months, we do bring this policy back before the Board of County Commissioners after we've received some fencing pricing, and we've steadily increased that cost of replacement. I don't know what the cost will be in 2025 for fencing, but this is the amount that was paid to all the other property owners.
So you need a motion to compensate for the cost of cure fencing for 2 properties in accordance with the current 2022 land acquisition policy in the amount of $17,347.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Beginning voting with Commissioner Doug Smith.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Any other presentation and discussion item?
Enough.
Anybody have anything they'd like to share with
I
us?
attended Fairmount Township, their budget hearing last Thursday.
I'm not going to be able to make
Mr.
it. I'm gonna
Heck
have to
showed
zoom in.
up for that one also.
Anyway.
That was it. He was the only one other than the public.
I've been in Branson, Missouri the last few days.
Fun.
Yeah, look at you.
How's their budget?
I don't know.
Yesterday.
Should have sit through it, Mike.
I don't care.
Yesterday, I participated in both the Workforce Partnership CEO board meeting and the regular board meeting. There was a training, WIOA training that was provided during the regular board meeting, which is the workforce grant that the Workforce Partnership operates under. And then last evening, I sat in on the City of Leavenworth's budget hearings, which were
Dandy.
How did that go?
It was very, very smooth. It was not long. We were out of there, and the meeting started at 6, and I left by 10 till 7, and they had other business items on the agenda. So
They didn't have a mic there.
no, it was very quiet. No, it was just a very calm meeting. So
I have nothing, Chair.
Me neither. Vicki took my Leavenworth City meeting, so I'm good.
then
So,
I'm heading out to
motion
the
to
Motion to
Transit
adjourn.
Authority meeting
Second
now.
voting.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, we adjourn.